Good afternoon. It is Commonwealth versus Karen Read, Day 7. We are in the afternoon session. It is May 8th, 2024. Remember, the prosecution is accusing Karen Read of second-degree murder of her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, as well as a operating under the influence related collision causing death and a hit and run causing death. The defense is saying that Karen Read was framed because she's a convenient outsider. So far, this case leaves a lot of questions because of the way it was done. We are just getting into the civilian witnesses talking about what the victim and defendant were doing the night leading up to him ending up at 34 Fairview, where he was found deceased the next morning. So we are going through him and Karen Read being out at a bar, CF something, Macaulay's something, the early in the evening. So they were out, McCarthy's, they were out at the bar in the evening, and then they transitioned across the street to the Waterfall. They left from the Waterfall, and then they ended up heading towards 34 Fairview. So we are working our way through that timeline and the groups of friends that they were with. On the stand before lunch is the bartender from the Waterfall, who was testifying about who was there with the group with victim officer John O'Keefe and Karen Read, including Caitlin Albert, a name you may know because, you know, Katie McLaughlin, the paramedic, went to high school with somebody by that name and or is very friendly with Caitlin Albert. But Caitlin Albert was at the bar at the Waterfall. Brian Albert was at the bar at the Waterfall. Brian Higgins was at the bar at the Waterfall with Karen Read and Officer O'Keefe. The last place they were before they went to 34 Fairview. At right before lunch, we were looking at the time on the video as the bar was closing. That bar was closing up right at about 12:10 a.m. So now we have a little bit more of a timeline based on text messages and based on security footage that bar was closing. The entire staff was out by 12:17. So we see people leaving that bar right around 12:10 a.m. and we start to get a timeline. We have not gotten into forensic evidence, cell phone, where the cell phones are going. We have not gotten into pathologists, how much Karen Read was drinking, any of that. So we're going to rejoin court. They're going to be beginning. Oh, I have food on my face. That's streaming is dynamic. We are going to be rejoining court. We are going to be resuming the cross-examination. And that is where we're at so far. I will see you guys right back here after the intro. Let's go, law nerds. Let me know what you had for lunch if you've had lunch. If not, I've got pretzels that I haven't finished and cheese. Look, sometimes the secret to an ADHD lunch is something I don't have to cook. So I basically have a Lunchable, but the salami is all gone. So salami, cheese, pretzels. That's what we're rocking over here. All right, let's go.
Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not. Let's get into it.
And we are going right back to court after lunch. Hear ye, hear ye. You know what I miss in this trial?
Bring the jury.
But we do hear jury out. And they start the day with hear ye, which I find to be delightful. The hear ye is new for me. But the jury out.
All right, could we have Miss Trayers, please?
It's hilarious to me. All right, so we're resuming cross-examination of the bartender, Rebecca Trayers. It looks like the attorneys are not talking about anything with the judge before we resume from lunch. So,
you might step up and sit right down.
All right,
Again,
let's just get back into cross-examination. I imagine they're going to use this bartender's experience as a bartender to determine the level of intoxication or inebriation she observed Karen Read to be. Remember, Karen Read is also charged with operating under the influence. They don't take her blood until sometime after 6, 7 a.m. It's unclear when she was transported the next day. And the prosecution's going to try to work back to get to a potential blood alcohol level when she dropped off Officer O'Keefe after 12:30. The defense is going to have experts to rebut that. So we're not there yet, but I think
right,
her
Ms. Tina.
demeanor
Thank you, Ron.
and how the bartender views her
Good
is
afternoon.
going to carry some weight for
You
this jury.
testified that you knew John O'Keefe as a prior
But we'll see if he gets
customer
there.
in the bar, correct?
Correct.
And that particular night, John appeared to be in a good mood. Would you agree?
Yes.
In fact, John is a pretty good tipper.
I wouldn't really know.
But with regard
She
to
doesn't remember,
that particular
so not
night,
that good.
there was one receipt that was introduced in Exhibit 54. You probably didn't take a close look at it.
No.
But if I suggested
Well,
to
does she
you
know who
that
paid?
there was a receipt for a total of $16.58 worth of drinks, and John put a tip down of $10, that'd be a pretty good tip, right? And do you need to see the receipt to confirm that, or?
No.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And that night, John's demeanor seemed fine. Would you agree?
Yes.
You didn't notice John buying drinks for a woman that night, did you?
No.
And with regard to your, sort of scanning the people that were there within that group, one of your duties as a bartender is to make sure that nobody's overserved, right?
Correct.
And so,
I thought they would
while
get
you
there.
don't watch every movement all the time, you do look for signs that somebody might be overserved, correct?
Correct.
And with regard
There weren't
to
that many people
the
left.
group that came in, the receipts for which you were shown today, nobody really seemed highly intoxicated to you, correct?
No.
I may just have a moment.
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Notice how quickly the
Don't read it,
defense
All right,
is
Ms.
moving
Triers, thank you
through
very
these
much.
witnesses.
Thank you.
He said before lunch, it'll only take a
May I
minute, and the
approach
judge is like,
counsel table to deliver this exhibit back?
let's go.
Yes, I was actually just looking for it. So yes,
Oh,
please.
right
Thank you.
here. Sorry.
That's okay.
And then we'll get to the next witness. The defense has done a very good job of only asking what they need from these witnesses
All right, your next witness, Mr. Lally.
and moving on.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will call Mr. Nicholas Kolokithas to the stand.
Okay.
I'm going to need a spelling. This is going to be witness number 21 for the prosecution. The defense has a very clear view of the evidence they need. At this point, I'm not sure the prosecution has the same clear view of the evidence they need. Sometimes their questions are helpful. Sometimes I'm like, where are we going? The defense is more precise in their questioning, especially as we get into the civilians, because the civilians, they saw what they saw. I haven't seen a civilian yet, really, that I've been like, oh, that's odd. All the civilians are like, I did this, I saw that, I don't remember this.
They're hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
I like your suit, sir.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the judge?
It's Nicholas Kolokithas, Kolokithas,
And where do you live, sir?
Canton,
And how long have you lived in Canton?
21 years.
And who, if anyone, do you live in Canton with?
My wife and 2 children,
What is your wife's name?
Karina,
And your
It's
two
witness number
children,
21.
How old are they? 18
and 16.
Are they both girls?
Yes.
And do you work, sir?
Yes, I do.
What do you do?
I'm an attorney.
And how long have you been practicing as an attorney?
27 years.
And does your wife work?
Yes, she does.
And what does she do?
She's a pharmacist.
Now, if I could turn your attention to
How
the
often?
evening of
how
January
awkward.
28th, 2020.
The potentiality of attorneys
Yes, I do.
testifying in court
Were
is.
you working that day?
I was.
Were you working in the office or remotely? Or
We were hybrid. I was working remote that day.
now, as far as that evening was concerned, what, if anything, were the plans, and sort of what did you do that evening?
Sure. My older daughter was on the Canton High basketball team. So we were planning to go, I was planning to go to the basketball game, and I did go to the basketball game. Yes.
And where was the basketball game, if you recall?
Canton High School.
And Your daughter at that point, which team did she play with?
She was coming off an injury, and she was playing for both the JV and the varsity team.
So she was sort of swinging between JV and varsity.
Correct.
Okay.
And so what time were each of the games that evening?
God, I think the JV was around 5 or so, and the varsity 6:30, 6:45.
Does it matter?
And do you recall who they were playing?
Foxborough High.
And when you arrived to the game,
I'm waiting for this witness to be like, can you please rephrase your question? Can you please rephrase your question? Can you please? I'm waiting. Please rephrase your question.
we'll
see.
Where is it that you typically sit when you go to a basketball game in Canada?
What?
There was a group of 5 parents or so, including us. We generally sat together most of the games.
And who, if anyone else, was among those parents that you sat with?
Specifically,
Yeah.
names.
You don't know
The
because the question's
McCabe's,
not
the
clear.
Fitzgerald's, Galleries, and Tom Beatty.
And these are people you know as sort of parents of other children that are on the team.
Yes.
Wasn't Jen McCabe a coach?
And as far as that particular, is that who you sat with on this occasion, if you recall?
I believe so.
And your wife, did she come to one or both games?
She came to the second game, the varsity game.
And about what time did that game get over?
The varsity game?
Yes.
It went into overtime. It was a back and forth game. Later than usual.
won?
I don't remember the exact time.
One.
How many points did your daughter put
We
up?
lost. Foxborough won.
He did ask. They
Following
lost.
That,
Great.
following the basketball game, where did you go
As usual, we waited for our players to come out, our daughters to come out. And they're the same group of parents were deciding if we should continue, go out somewhere, get something to eat. I was hungry. Anybody who knows me doesn't get between me and my food, so I was very hungry, so wanted to get something to eat.
And
When are
where
we
did you
eating?
decide to go?
I can relate.
Went to the Waterfall.
Is that somewhere that you had been before?
That's
yes.
why this is relevant.
Now, with regard to the Waterfall, as far as the other parents were concerned, what, if any, other parents from the ones that you described, as far as the ones you sit with at the game, who, if anyone else, went?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
And
What did you order?
how was that sort of? Was that
Were there mozzarella
communicated
sticks?
to you as far as in person, via text, or phone, or how did you come to the Waterfall?
It was via text.
And so you get a text from who specifically directing you to sort of go to the Waterfall?
So it was a group text amongst the 5 sets of families, and different ideas were bantered about in the group text, and I decided to go to Waterfall.
And when you get to the Waterfall, being familiar with the establishment, where is it that you parked in reference to the Waterfall?
I parked behind Washington Street. There's a small little parking lot. Waterfall shares a parking lot with other establishments and I believe condos, so I parked in the back.
And about what time did you get
Got
there?
to turn my fan
I
down.
got there right around 9-ish, a little bit before 9 o'clock.
And
Was it snowing
if
yet?
anyone else from that group of parents besides yourself and the McCabe's went to the Waterfall that night?
So walked in, it was a large table, probably about 8 to 10 feet long. In addition to Jen and Matt McCabe, there was Jen's sister, Nicole Albert, her husband, Brian Albert, Brian's brother, Chris Albert, and his wife, Julie. And there were others that I was just introduced to for the first time. So I don't remember their name. I don't recall their names, but there were others at the table as well.
And so as far as the other sort of basketball parents, were any of them there as well, beyond the McCabe's?
Beyond the McCabe's, no.
And as far as the other people who weren't, didn't have the last name McCabe, how did you know any of those people? Or did you know any of those people?
At the Waterfall?
Yes.
I had met Nicole, Brian, Chris, and Julie prior, I think, other basketball games, other events. So I knew them through the McCabe's, through Jen.
And the McCabe's had a daughter on the basketball team as well.
They had one of their daughters on the team at the time, yes.
And when it came to the McCabe's, there's Mr. and Mrs. What are their names?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
We know
How
this
long
by
have
now.
you known Jennifer and Matt?
About 9 or 10 years ago, we met.
And at some point, During the course of the evening, did your wife join you at the waterfall as well?
She did.
Fair to say you took separate cars, is that correct?
We did, yes.
And about how long after you arrived did your wife Karina arrive?
I want to say it was about a half hour or so. So around 9:30 she arrived.
Now, with reference to this table that you were referencing, about 8 to 10 feet long, is that correct?
Correct.
And was this a high top, low top? What kind of table is that?
It was a high top table towards the bar end of Waterfall. I don't know if it was the last table or the second to last table right before you hit the bar.
And as far as the people that you described, the people that you knew or didn't know, where were they sort of situated around the table?
When I first walked in, I saw Matt, since he was the person I was most familiar with, Matt and Jen. Matt was standing towards the right side of the table as you're walking in towards the right side, so I went to the right side of the table.
Is that essentially where you stayed for the balance of most of the night?
Yes.
And your wife, when she arrived, where did she go in reference to?
Initially, she came to me, said hello. I think she picked for my food, and then she gravitated, I believe, towards the left side of the table where more of the women were located.
And
she came and said hi and grabbed something off my plate. Yep.
Was there anyone else that you knew or aware of that came into the bar?
Yes.
And about what time was that?
Shortly before 11 or right around 11.
And who was that?
It was John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
And these are people that you were familiar with prior to that date?
Yes.
And just to be clear, when we're talking about Karen Reed, do you see Miss Reed in the courtroom today?
I do.
And could you describe just as to where she's seated or an article of clothing she's wearing?
She's seated at the table to my right, second person in from the right.
That's a record reflect identification of the defendant by the witness?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, how did you know John O'Keefe?
John O'Keefe had adopted his niece and nephew. His niece is the same age as my younger daughter. And they were playing basketball together. They've been friends for years. So I got to know John through my daughter.
Now, as far as Ms. Reed, when was it that you met her? Or when was it that you became sort of aware?
Sure. I believe it was towards the end of the summer of 2020. I dropped my daughter off at John's place on Meadows. Karen was there. It was the first time I met her. So it was 2020.
And with reference to yourself and your wife as a couple and Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, how often would you sort of see them?
As couples, not too often. I would see John on a weekly basis during the basketball season, sometimes multiple times a week during the basketball season. But as couples, maybe a couple of times we had seen them.
So fair to say most of your interaction with them would be at sort of sporting events or things for the kids?
Kid
Yes.
stuff.
Now,
Like their acquaintances.
as far as on that evening, obviously you went out, you had something to eat. Did you have anything to drink as well?
I did.
And do you recall sort of what you were drinking that night?
Captain and Coke.
And as far as, John, do you recall sort of what he was
All
drinking
hail
that
the
night?
captain,
Yes.
I guess.
And what, if anything, do you recall?
Beer.
Is that sort of typical for Mr. O'Keefe?
From the occasions we happen to be out on events like that, yes.
Now, as far as Ms. Reed, what, if anything?
The reason the beer is going to matter, I'm cutting him off mid, what if anything. The reason the beer matters versus what Karen Reed is drinking, because of what's on the receipt from the Waterfall, I believe, because I've seen it reported, that the receipt shows a number of vodka sodas, like 6 or whatever. So it forestalls the argument that she was just buying for the table. If everyone at the table is drinking different things, then those would go to her if John's drinking beer. So that would be generally why we're actually going to get into the relevant detail of what everyone is drinking. I don't know what everybody in the chat wishes they were drinking. I'm just trying to stay hydrated, but I mean, a mega pint of Captain and Coke right now might be okay.
Did you observe her to be drinking at the Waterfall?
She was holding a cup, a glass with a clear liquid.
And where the glass
what was
came
your
from.
Understanding of what was in the cup with the clear liquid?
I don't know what was in there, but I don't know if it was water or alcoholic drink.
Lawyer.
But I don't know for sure.
I don't know. I wasn't drinking it. It's not in a beer bottle. Hard to tell. I will say often when I go out, I will get club soda and lime in like a rocks
Now,
glass
as
with
far
ice.
as the
Not a vodka
sort of
soda.
general demeanor and
Might look
atmosphere
like
within the bar that night, how would you describe that?
Generally, it was a fun atmosphere. There was a live band.
We have not
Everybody
seen the
was in a
receipt
good
yet.
mood. I think people were singing to some of the music, so it was a fun atmosphere.
I think there's multiple receipts. I don't know.
And
We'll see.
specifically, you didn't observe anything as far as arguing or anything between Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, is that correct?
That is correct. I did not.
And
How does that help
you
their
didn't
case?
observe anything as far as arguing or anything between anyone at the bar that night, is that correct?
That is
So, what the prosecution has proved with all of these witnesses is that everyone was having fun that evening. The bartender didn't observe anyone to be overserved at this point. That Karen Reed's arguments so far with John O'Keefe from these witnesses today are over the fact that sometimes John seemed to feel that she was spoiling the kids by getting nails done or buying expensive clothes or what have you. So what they've established is that everyone was having a good time and that Karen really cared about John's niece and nephew quite a lot. And everybody enjoyed spending time with one another, and they seem to have a very friendly community that everyone enjoys being together. Parents get together after games, that they seem like a very social community. That's what we've gotten today.
correct. I did not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
Oh, that's true. They did prove that John O'Keefe was drinking beer so
as far
far.
as Mr. O'Keefe was
Mhm.
concerned, do you recall what he was wearing when he was in the bar?
Yes, he had a dark baseball cap, jeans, sneakers, and he had some type of top, a longer sleeve top.
At any point in time, did you observe him to have a winter coat or a jacket or anything like that?
Not that I recall.
And as far as his clothing was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the condition? Were there any tears or anything in his clothing?
No tears, nothing
I mean, if
unusual
there's
about the
tears
clothing.
in his clothing afterwards, I've
And
got questions.
As far as Mr. O'Keefe himself, what, if any, injuries did you observe on him at that time that you saw him at the bar?
I didn't observe any injuries.
Now, as far as
That's actually relevant questions. They've asked a couple
prior
of
to them
people
coming into the waterfall, do you
that
have
he
any
didn't have
idea
any
sort of
injuries
where
to
they were
him
coming
before.
Yes, I did.
from? And how did you know?
I knew through Matt McCabe. Matt had said that they were at Waterfall, at CF McCarthy's, and they were heading over. We had the live band, and they were coming over to our place.
As far as the live band was concerned, about how loud was it in the waterfall during that time?
It was fairly loud.
Now, towards the end of the night, what, if any, discussion did you observe or were you a part of as far as sort of anywhere people were going afterward?
Again, we were at this larger, 8, almost 10-foot table, and most of the discussion was happening towards the other side of the table, but there were a couple of places that people were discussing about potentially going.
And what were those couple places people were discussing?
One was one was 2 D&Es, which was across the street next to CF McCarthy's, and the other one was 34 Fairview Road.
The after
And
party.
as far as D&Es, are you familiar with that establishment?
Yes, I am.
And what is it and where is it in relation to water?
It's basically a sub shop, pizza shop. It's diagonally across the street from Waterfall.
And what, if any, relationship did the D&E Pizza have to anyone that you observed in the group that night?
Chris Albert, who was with the group, is one of the owners, if not the owner, of D&E.
And as far as going to that place afterward, who, if anyone among the group, had sort of mentioned that or was talking about it?
I didn't hear specifically one person. It was just generally coming from the group. So
Did you hear the defendant at any point talking about going there or wanting to?
I heard from others that she had mentioned about wanting to go there.
Now, you mentioned a couple of different places. What was the other?
34 Fairview Road.
And was it mentioned specifically as far as that address, or how was it referenced?
I believe it was mentioned. Brian Albert, the homeowner, had invited the group back to his house. I can't remember if it was come back to my house or come back to 34 Fairview, but that was his residence.
And so was that sort of an open invitation to the group at the table?
Yes.
And Yourself and your wife, did either of you go to Fairview Road that night?
We did not.
And at some point, you left, you recall about what time that you left the waterfall?
It was shortly after 12 o'clock, maybe 12:10 or so.
And when did you leave in reference to sort of the rest of the group?
Sure. Matt and I stayed back a little bit. We helped clean up the table with the bottles and glasses. We spoke to the band briefly, told them how well they played. So we were a little bit later, maybe a couple of minutes later than the rest of the group.
And when you exited, did you
So
know
they
where
helped
your wife
pick up the
was?
table.
I did. I knew where she was.
Where was she?
She was parked out front on Washington Street.
And so you were parked in the lot and she was parked on Washington Street? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And when you came outside, what, if anything, did you observe about sort of the weather or what was going on?
It was very cold, and it just started to snow. I don't even think there was a dusting on the ground or barely a dusting on the ground.
And so at that point, could you still sort of see like the blacktop on the pavement?
Yes.
When you got to your car, what, if anything, did you have to do to sort of get your car ready to go or clean off the car or anything like that?
I didn't need a scraper or anything. I just turned on my windshield wipers and it cleaned the snow off.
I know, Chad, I see you. I know a lot of you are like, oh my God, snow. I think the timing of this snow is actually more helpful to the jury and truly to all of us. And here's why. Because the prosecution's case is when they leave, this group goes, or he and his wife go home, I think, or wherever he said they went. I don't know if they've gotten there yet, but they don't go back to 34 Fairview. He's saying that there's not even snow sticking to the ground yet, and it's about 12:10, 12:15. We know from the timestamps at the bar that the entire bar is shut down by 12:16, 12:17. The prosecution's theory of the case is that they get from the Waterfall to Fairview. I can't imagine it's all that far. Get from the Waterfall to Fairview, and she drops off John there. And then the prosecution says he never gets into the party. But when we saw where the victim had been removed from by the ambulance, and we don't know exactly what time those photos were taken, but there is no empty patch of snow from where the victim is when they're taking photos. And the glass was buried in snow. So there's not a ton of snow coming down at this point. So if the victim is in the yard at 12:30, when are we getting to the snow? And there was snow under the victim, but there's no snow sticking to the ground at this time. So the timing of the snow at this point actually matters quite a bit because it gives us context. We're now in that countdown from the waterfall to when the victim ends up at 34 Fairview and what happens. I don't know if that plays in more to the prosecution's theory of the case or the defense's theory of the case at this point, but that's asking about the snow now is actually quite helpful because there's no accumulation of snow yet. And
now,
I don't
as far as you mentioned
think the victim
and Mr. McCabe was
and
sort of the last to leave from the
defendant
group.
went anywhere
Do you
other
know
than
what
straight to
order
34
the
Fairview.
rest of the group had left in?
We'll see.
Generally, yes.
And generally, what do you recall?
There was a larger group that left right before us. I believe my wife was part of that group. Jen was in that group, and Karen was in that group.
You mentioned that your wife was sort of gravitated towards the other end of the table where some of the other women were at. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So who was, as far as the women that you're referencing, who was in that group that your wife was conversing with?
I know it was Karen was part of that group, and Jennifer was part of that group as well.
And that'd be Jennifer McCabe, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd just like to publish just a brief portion of Exhibit 53, this surveillance video.
So we're going to see some of the video from the waterfall.
Exhibit 53 up on the screen, and specifically, if I
And he's going to have him point out the different people, I would imagine.
Channel 3, the second video down.
Okay, Match S said, I've been wanting to know if it was snowing when she dropped him off. It seems like we're getting those initial flurries when she dropped him off, but so it wasn't snowy enough that he's going to slip.
When it gets to 10:59, if you could just pause. Thank you. So, Mr. Kolokithas, what's up on the screen as Exhibit 53? Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recognize?
It's the inside of Waterfall bar.
And before you on that desk, I believe there should be a laser pointer.
Yes.
So if you could just grab that and sort of click the button on top when I ask you to.
Yes.
So with reference to this video, do you see yourself within this video?
Yes, I do.
You could just draw the jury's attention to sort of where you are in this video.
Black and white shirt.
And from that specific area, sort of where you are, do you recognize anybody else in that sort of general area of the frame?
Yes, I do.
And if you could just draw the jury's
Oh, the timestamp is
Who do
in
you recognize
such an
with?
unfortunate
I believe
spot.
that's Matt McCabe right there to my right and John O'Keefe to my left, in front of me to my left.
Now, that area of the table where you indicated your wife was with another group of women further away from you, where would that be if you see?
The numbering is there, so I can't really see, but it was towards this side.
And further down the table, is that where people that you were less familiar with, is that where they were?
Correct. Yes.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor.
There is a lot of like white noise
Mr.
to the
Kolokithas.
feed
Good
today.
afternoon.
Mr. Kolokithas, you and I have never actually met.
We have not.
We've never had a conversation.
Have not.
We've certainly never had an interview about this case.
Have not.
So this is our first time visiting about this situation.
Yes.
When did you say you first met Ms. Reed?
I believe it was towards the end of the summer of 2020.
Okay. And that was over at an event at
N- It,
Pete's house?
I don't know if it was John's niece's birthday party or so, but I was dropping my daughter off at John's house.
Okay. That sort of dovetails into my next question. You and your wife and y'all's kids did have some sort of relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, Ms. Reed, and Mr. O'Keefe's niece and nephew.
Yes.
Yeah.
In other words, the kids got along well.
Yes, absolutely. And they still friends.
As the adults, you wanted to make sure that you could facilitate play dates, get-togethers, things of that nature for the children.
I mean,
Yes.
the
As a matter
16-year-old
of
is
fact,
going
do
to kill you
remember
for calling it a
situation
play
in
date.
which Ms. Reed had arranged a relatively elaborate 13th birthday party for Mr. O'Keefe's niece, a scavenger hunt of some sorts.
Objection.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for this, please.
I am curious as to what they're getting into about a birthday party. So we will see. We're going to zoom while they're at sidebar. So for those of you asking in the chat, 34 Fairview is the home of Brian Albert, where the victim was found at 6 a.m.-ish the next morning. Or the same morning. We're now after midnight. After midnight. Stop it.
Yeah,
We're now in that
Yes.
after midnight hour where it's like night,
With
morning.
regard to the last question I asked, you recall an event in which Ms. Reed had organized a relatively elaborate 13th.
He's allowed it. I saw some of you in the chat saying, there goes the judge again. They're not allowed to argue the objections in court. The court has said, objection, no grounds, and I will rule. So she's bringing it to sidebar, I would think, to hear what they have to say about the objection if it's not clear to her. And she's allowing it for the defense. So I don't think that the judge calling them to sidebar really indicates honestly much of anything other than she wants to hear more of what the attorneys have to say, and she's not doing it in open court for any of the attorneys. So I just think it's allowing further explanation at this point. And the defense is getting right back into what they were getting into.
Birthday party for Mr. O'Keefe's niece, correct?
Yes.
And one of your children was actually invited to that.
Yes.
Did you actually go and accompany your child at the 13th birthday party?
I did not.
Did your wife?
I don't know. She generally keeps a social calendar for the kids, but I don't know if she did.
So it could have been a situation, Mr. Kolokithas, in which you just dropped the child off and
Yes, correct.
enjoyed the birthday
I mean,
party.
it is
Correct.
13.
Okay, fair enough. But you had no problems or no qualms with Miss Reed, Mr. O'Keefe.
Yeah, the
being
objection
caretakers
got
over your
overruled.
children.
Absolutely not.
You said that you didn't socialize as couples all that often, but there were times in which you did socialize with them.
Yes.
They did parent
About how many times would you say?
stuff.
Handful of times, maybe,
Okay, 5 or 6
if that,
over the course of how long?
since 2020 to 2022, 2 years, less than 2 years.
Focusing your attention more toward the end of that time period that you just mentioned, toward 2022, when you socialized with Miss Reed and Mr. O'Keefe, did you ever see any sort of tension between the two of them?
Not at all.
Did they seem like a normal and loving couple?
Absolutely.
They seemed like they were affectionate and normally affectionate with one another?
Absolutely.
Did you ever have any question about
My
the
hand
nature
lotion
of their relationship,
just
any toxicity in their relationship,
Exploded
or
on me.
any overt indicators that they weren't getting along?
Not to my knowledge, not at all.
Okay. They got along.
Matter of fact, you spent more time with Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
Anybody else in the foursome, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Other than my wife. I mean, force of
That's a good catch. You're going to pay for that later. Fair enough.
get brownie points for that, right?
Let me see if I can restate it a little bit better. Between Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed, you spent more time with Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes,
Yes.
brownie
Fair
points for that, sir.
You knew that Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed had rekindled a previous relationship from years earlier.
Yes, I did.
Oh. And you knew that Mr. O'Keefe was excited about that.
Yes.
I wanted to know more about that. We haven't gotten into it.
I want
I
to
was
draw your
curious.
attention to
Ugh.
the late night hours of January 28th going into the early morning hours of January 29th, if I could. Specifically at the Waterfall. Did you get to the Waterfall before Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed got there?
We didn't
Yes, I did.
get
How
into a
long
lot of
before?
that yet.
So I got there around 9 and they got there shortly before 11. So 2 hours.
While at the Waterfall, did you have an opportunity to speak with Ms. Reed or Mr. O'Keefe just in normal conversation?
Yes, I did.
You engaged both of them, as a matter of fact, didn't you?
Yes.
Was there a time in which Ms. Reed was actually singing John's praises that night?
Yes, I did.
What a great daddy was.
Yep.
Let him
Objection,
finish.
move to strike.
I'm going to strike that.
Why?
Next question.
At any point, did you have an
not
opportunity
statements
to
of a
hear
party
Mr.
opponent. That is
O'Keefe
hearsay.
talk
Me going,
about,
why? No, that's
Ms.
hearsay.
Reed and the nature of their relationship or any event?
The defense cannot introduce statements of the defendant if the defense, because it's not statements of a party opponent, if the defense wants to introduce the defendant's statement, do you know what they do? Call the defendant to testify. They can't elicit the testimony of the defendant through other witnesses because it is not the statement of a party opponent. But also my brain is sometimes used to listening to this defense attorney as a prosecutor. So that took me a second. They were, nope, that's not happening.
Surrounding their relationship.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Yeah, his observations,
Um,
you can.
Mm, I had heard that they were planning
Oh, the jurors heard it anyway,
vacations
yes.
in the future.
Were you aware of the time frame of those vacations in the future? Next week, next month, next year?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Jurors, feel free to stand up.
They just got back from lunch, Your Honor. I don't know if they need a stretch break just yet. John planning for the future indicates that he did not believe there were issues in the relationship. We've gotten into some of this with other witnesses, but we haven't really gotten a lot of specifics. So if this witness knows, it goes towards, look, they're not planning on breaking up. And it's my understanding from the little I knew about this case coming in and opening arguments that the prosecution said in their opening that John O'Keefe was trying to break up with Karen Reed. And that seems to be part of the prosecutor's theory that John O'Keefe was trying to break up with her. Well, if you're planning vacations in the future, does that track with the prosecution's theory that they were about to break up? If you're trying to break up with someone and you're like, we're done, and they're like, no, we're not, and you're like, yes, we are, and they're like, give it one more chance, are you necessarily planning a vacation?
Yes, thank you. There was nothing eventful at the bar while you were at the bar with Mr.
And the
O'Keefe
judge didn't
Ms.
allow
Reed
it with this
that comes to
witness.
mind in terms of any kind of tension or fight that night.
Tension or fight? Absolutely not.
No argument that was audible to you.
Absolutely not.
You didn't see any body language between the two of them that would suggest an argument or a fight or tension.
In fact, I noticed the opposite.
Describe that.
They were affectionate toward each other, loving toward each other, and to the point where my wife even made a comment, why are you not like that with me?
You had something to
Little bit more PDA, sir.
live up to.
Yes.
How long did
That's
he
why
say
I
he'd
needed
been
the
married?
brownie points earlier.
15 years?
I want to shift gears for a second.
I think he said he'd been married
When another time
around
at the
15
bar.
years, maybe more if they
Was there a
asked.
time
I
at the
don't remember.
bar where you noticed any individuals with their fists up and engaged in some sort of conduct that looks a little like this?
For combat.
No, I didn't observe that.
You don't recall that?
No,
Sparring with one another?
not that I saw.
Wrestling?
Not that I saw.
Okay.
Y'all, why is Ryan Hall live? Are we talking about me? No.
I'd like, if I could, Mr. Kolokithas, with the court's permission.
I'm keeping an eye on
refer
weather
to
too as
Exhibit
well,
53.
chat.
Okay.
There are several, Your Honor, so the court,
So if you're going to talk about it, talk at sidebar.
not.
Okay. So
this is the clip ending in 5959 because there's several clips in
Okay.
53. We can have that up. With the court's permission, I'd like to display this to the jury at runtime 8:30, 8 minutes and 30 seconds.
all right. So what exhibit is this?
This is 53.
The
And
same
it's clip
one.
ending in 5959.
Jam boy, I think the reason the prosecution
Can I
called
play
this
this?
witness
Yes.
is because
I'm going to
they're
play about 10 seconds, Mr. Kolokithas, and then stop it and ask you a couple of questions.
they're clarifying the timeline of when everyone got to the waterfall. This is a good witness to do that and clarify when everyone got to the waterfall. He's also clarifying what different people are drinking. I don't know if other witnesses remember what John O'Keefe was drinking or not, but that's information the prosecution needs in. So the prosecution presents the evidence as it is. Whether it helps them or not, it kind of is what it is. So I don't know if much of it has helped them at this point, but this witness is also very likable. It's just nice to see the pacing of the civilian witnesses after how challenging some of the other witnesses were. So
Sure.
that's why. Also, I am minding my weather. I think my weather's going to be fine till later, but all the rest of you, mind your
We can
weather.
pause. I just wanted to play a couple of seconds to see if you recognize any what's
I was just trying to move the closed captioning.
displayed in this video.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
How do I I was there that night.
I guess my question is, do you recognize this as being a surveillance video from the 28th going into the morning of the 29th?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I want to draw your attention to the individuals that are toward the top. This one, you have that green one. There we go. Okay. If I could draw your attention to the individuals at the top, can you name the folks that we're seeing and describe what they're wearing for the jurors so we have an understanding of who we're looking at?
Okay. That's me in the white and black. That's Matt to my right. a little hard of seeing, but I think that's John right there.
That does look like what the victim was
And
wearing in the other videos.
I thought I saw Karen earlier right in this area while you were displaying the video.
And what about the two gentlemen with their backs to us?
I know I met them that evening, but I can't tell from behind like this.
Understood. With the court's permission, could we just go ahead and play this through? I'd like to run it through to about the runtime of 11:08, but I'll ask that the video be paused momentarily.
11:08, so just one more second.
Runtime 11:08, so probably about 4 minutes.
Okay.
3 minutes, 4 minutes. May I?
Yes.
So we're going to watch through the video. He's already directed everybody to the area of the video. We can see the victim, and that looks like Karen, who just kind of threw her head back and laughed.
Having seen this run forward just a little bit, do you see an individual here with long hair?
I
So
do.
you're
It's hard to-
squinting. Are you having difficulty?
Yes,
seeing
I
this?
am having difficulty. Could you blow it up a bit or?
I don't think so. Our technology is good, but I'm getting.
He can walk closer.
My eyes are not good. I can tell you that.
He can walk closer.
Let's just go ahead and play it forward. With the
Let him walk
permission.
closer.
All right, but if you can't see it, I don't want you to guess.
So
Let
this,
him
are
walk
you talking
closer.
right here?
Yes.
That looks like Karen.
Okay.
Just
Maybe
let
play it
him
forward.
walk
Yes.
closer. But it would be hard to see.
Pause it.
Those two are messing with each other.
I ask you to draw your attention to the two gentlemen.
His back looks like it's turned in the video, so I'm not
Can you
surprised he
describe
said he
what they're
didn't
doing?
see that.
It looks like they're in a stance that you described earlier with fists up.
Objection,
they're-
Your Honor. May we approach?
Okay, so I'm sustaining that objection, but come on up.
I don't know who those individuals are. I don't think this witness knows who those individuals are. If this witness does not know who those individuals are and his back is turned because he's standing at the bar, there's not much more he can testify about what those two are doing because he didn't see it. This video is for the witness to say, hey, that's where I was standing. That's where this person was standing, not because they're watching the video, but from their memory of the evening. I was standing here, John was standing here, Karen was standing here. Yes, this looks like that. I was standing here, Karen was there. This, if he has his back to this and didn't see it happen and doesn't know who these people are, he can't just give play-by-play on a video. Other witnesses are going to testify and the defense will get into it then, but he doesn't have firsthand knowledge of that. He can't just describe a video. That's not the point of the testimony. The point of the testimony is him being there. Other witnesses will get into it, I'm sure. There's lots of other people that were there that night. So let's continue to go forward. But I mean, I don't know. They look like they were people messing around. But if he doesn't know who they are, he's not a recipient witness to it. He's not a recipient witness to it because he didn't see it, not because he doesn't know who they are. I just want to make sure that's clear. Take it out of context. If he didn't see it, he can't just narrate the video.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Another question, and if you're having trouble seeing, just let me know. Do you
He's
see
moving past that.
the person in the far right?
Yes, I do.
Who's that?
Me.
And
So
what do you seem to be?
he's
what do you appear to be
watching
looking
it,
at,
then
if
that's
anything?
different.
I appear to be looking in that direction.
Okay.
Right. And
Can we
that's
go ahead and play
different.
this forward?
He's like, I appear to be laughing at them. And watching the TV or the band or whatever. Okay.
Pause. Mr. Kolokithas, do you recall engaging with the two men in any sort of conversation, the two men with their backs facing to us?
I mean, I can see it. I honestly do not recall it, but yeah.
Do you recall
And that's the
ever
answer.
being introduced to those two gentlemen?
Yes.
Who are they?
Brian Albert, Brian Higgins.
And which one is which? Left and right.
Left is Albert, right is Higgins.
We're going to play this?
And now he's talking to them. I mean, he's like, yes, I recall being introduced to them. No, I don't know what they were doing. Fine. Okay. Did they rewind it? I wasn't paying attention to the times, yeah.
How's it? Mr. Kolokithas, can I draw your attention to the upper right? Do you recognize any person facing the camera in the upper right corner?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
John O'Keefe.
Holding a beer.
About 30 more seconds, Your Honor.
Okay.
Oh, drinking a beer.
Your Honor, we've paused at 11:08. If I could ask a couple of other questions, and I think we can leave the lights down because I'm going to ask them.
And that's the run time, not the time on the video.
Mr. Kolokithas, you indicated that you don't recall the events that you're seeing. Is that still the case, or has your recollection been refreshed about what you were witnessing?
I honestly don't remember what appears to be play fighting. I don't remember that.
If we could move to runtime 1636 with the court's permission.
Okay.
Ready? Your Honor, when you play 1636. Go ahead. And pausing. Do you see yourself in the upper right-hand corner?
Yes, I do.
And do you see the two people, the two individuals, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, in the foreground?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Is he going to try to pick him up? Nope. Is this why he was helping them put the tables back and clean up the classes?
Pause it. Do you see at this point, I know it's difficult, do you see John O'Keefe anywhere in the frame at this
Much
juncture?
harder to see him.
I do not see him.
Okay. Play it.
What are they doing? Messing around. They're just messing with each other.
Unpause. And now taking a look at the individual in the top of the screen, do you see that person?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
John O'Keefe.
And what direction? Is he facing us or facing away from us?
Pull his
He's
hood up.
facing us. It looks like he's facing us.
So he would be facing the two individuals with their back to us?
Yes.
And it appears to be standing across the table, across the bar table.
Yes.
I'm going to play that for a second.
I imagine we're going to see this video a few more times with other witnesses. The timestamp is so unfortunate, though. And the reason I'm looking off to the side is because I have a bigger screen. My third screen is up to the side.
I would ask you who this individual is with the fur coat,
My wife.
lining on the coat.
It's my wife.
Okay. And are you still in the same spot, upper right-hand corner?
Yes, I am.
And where's Mr. O'Keefe?
I'm waiting for this witness to be like, it is my wife, who I love very much, who I adore. She is the moon and the stars and the sun. More brownie points. I'm just waiting for it because now it's become a thing.
Across. He's now facing the other way,
Thank you.
away from us.
We can take this down. With regard to what you just saw, the second incident of what appeared to be two individuals touching each other, did you engage in any sort of roughhousing or play fighting that night?
They were definitely touching each other.
Did you engage in any grappling or wrestling that night?
I did not.
Did you see John O'Keefe engage in any wrestling or grappling or play fighting?
I do not recall him doing that.
Or do you recall him doing any sparring?
I do not recall him doing that.
Do you recall him ever putting his fists up toward any other person in that bar that night?
I do not recall him doing that.
That's all I have for this witness, Sean.
All right.
Oh, if I can
Any?
have just a moment. I'm sorry. I've already got that in. 1636. I'm fine. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Lally, any follow-up?
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Mr. Kolokithas.
As far as your observations of Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed and their relationship, you saw what they sort of depicted in public, correct?
Yes.
So fair to say, did you ever have any sort of substantial conversations with either Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed about their relationship?
A personal relationship? No, I did not.
Anything as far as your personal relationship with your wife, is that something that you would have shared or discussed with Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed?
I'm not sure. Are you asking me if I knew something about their relationship I would share with my wife or vice versa?
So what I'm asking is...
No, he's asking, did you
from
talk
the
about
other
your
side.
relationship
Okay,
with your
so
wife
you-
with them?
How would you describe it?
Everybody was happy, having a good time.
I'm sorry, what just happened? That wasn't me. I have no idea what just happened to the stream. Hold on. But it just jumped. That was odd. All right, y'all. That was odd. Let me see if we finish up those questions from Lolly with this witness about, do you talk about your wife with John and Karen? That was so strange. Delightful. Just delightful. For those of you that are like, YouTube is tired of Lolly. I mean, maybe. Let me see if I can get this. This is why I break at lunch, because streams can get a little picky when they've been live for hours and hours. So
We're taking in the kids several years ago.
if I need to switch streams, I will. But we, oh, there was a sidebar too. Like, this jumped quite a bit. It seems. So I'm trying to find.
Just a moment. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to find where we are with the redirect now that we lost it. Sorry, y'all.
I did not.
Did you engage in any grappling or wrestling that night?
I did not.
Did you see John O'Keefe engage in any wrestling or
I'm
grappling
leaving it
or play
here to
fighting?
be safe.
I do not recall him doing that.
Or do you recall him doing any sparring?
I do not recall him doing that.
Do you recall him ever putting his fists up toward any other person in that bar that night?
I do not recall him doing that.
And then we should get to redirect.
That's all I have for this one.
Okay.
Sean.
All right.
Oh, if I can have
Any?
just a moment. I'm sorry. I've already got that in. 1636. I'm fine. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Lally, any follow-up?
Just briefly, Your Honor.
Mr. Kolokithas.
As far as your observations of Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed and their relationship, you saw what they sort of depicted in public, correct?
Yes.
So fair to say, did you ever have any sort of substantial conversations with either Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed about their relationship?
A personal relationship? No, I did not.
Anything as far as your personal relationship with your wife, is that something that you would have shared or discussed with Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed?
I'm not sure.
It's like, I
Are
don't know
you
what you're
asking me if I
asking.
knew something
Your
about their
question is
relationship I would
weird.
share with my wife or vice versa?
No, what I'm asking is from the other side. Okay, so you didn't discuss really Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed's relationship with them, correct?
Correct.
And so what I'm asking now is you didn't discuss your own relationship with your wife with Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed, correct?
That is correct.
Now, with reference to what you were just shown up on the screen, that was so memorable that you testified you don't have a memory of it, correct?
The which part?
The whatever that was between two individuals play fight.
I do not recall that.
And as far as yourself within that video, did you observe yourself appear to sort of be laughing while that was going on?
I did. I don't know if I was necessarily looking at them or the other side of the table, but yes, I did observe myself laughing.
Nothing further.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. I observed myself laughing in that video. Yes, I appear to be laughing at the dudes who are wrestling and messing with one another. I'm going to zoom past this. May we approach? After we're done with this witness, I think I'm going to refresh this stream so that we don't have as many buffering issues again. The longer a stream has been live, the more difficult it can be. So I'll jump into it fresh. I left it up over lunch. I normally swap it. That's fine. And we're going to get into recross after they approach.
Mr. Kolokithas, just one more question. You testified previously at another hearing that Karen Reed, quote, was actually singing John's praises about how good of a person he was, a father figure, taking in the kids several years ago and, you know, being there for them and praising them and sacrificing his life to raise them, end quote. You remember saying that?
Yes, I do.
Is that true?
100%.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Kolokithas, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Lally, you opened the door for that one with your one more question on redirect, didn't you? It didn't come in before. The prosecution approached and said, look, Mr. Lally opened the door for this by asking. The prosecution did this to themselves. The judge denied it. It's not a hearsay exception. It's the party's own statement. The prosecution got up and didn't see it coming, even though he should have, because the defense tried to get into it before and was denied by the judge. I think that was the right call at the time. The prosecution is like, you didn't talk about your relationship with John and Karen didn't talk about their relationship with you. That's why he asked to approach the court, because he said, look, Lally opened the door for this. So now I get to get into it. And then he just sat there and read the entire statement in, got the entire defendant's statement in that would have never come in if Lally was careful. So the court, again, I know a lot of you don't like this judge. I get it. But the court made the proper ruling before. That's not hearsay without an exception. And then he went back up to the court and was like, Your Honor, he just opened the door for this. And the judge was like, yeah, he did, and got all into it. So
Karina Kolokithas to the stand.
Lally got owned. Oh, this is the witness's wife that's coming up to the stand next. That was a self-own, Lally. You should have known the defense wanted to go there and read that whole question in. Okay. So next witness is the wife. And again, I think the judge called it properly.
Can you raise your hand? You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now hearing to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
This is witness 22.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
It's Karina Kolokithas, Kolokithas.
And where is it that you live, ma'am?
I live in Canton.
And how long have you lived in Canada?
We lived in Canton for about 13 years. 21 years.
And when you say we, who, if anyone, do you live in Canada?
I live with my husband and my 2 daughters.
And what's your husband's name?
His name is Nicholas.
And how many daughters do you have?
I have 2,
And about how old are they?
18 and 16.
How do you feel about your husband's lack of
And, do you
PDA?
work, ma'am?
I do work.
And what do you do for work?
I'm a pharmacist.
And your husband works as well?
He does.
What does he do?
He's an attorney.
They're just
If I
kind of
could,
delightful. I just
turn
kind of
your
love this
attention
couple.
to, January 28th and January 29th of 2022. All those days.
I do.
And do you recall what day of the week those were?
It was a Friday and a Saturday.
Ma'am, your husband
And
would like you to
specifically
know that
Friday,
he wants
did you
brownie
work that
points.
I did work that day.
And after you left work, where did you go?
I went to the Canton Junction.
And why did you go?
We got a text saying some parents.
She doesn't know yet what her husband said because she's testifying next. So she doesn't know that he gets brownie points. Somebody, I'm sure, is watching and will tell her that that husband gets brownie points, and they can sort all of that out later. I'm sure her friends and their friends will have watched them testify and will let her know that her husband was very complimentary of her on the stream.
From the varsity team were going to be meeting up there, so I thought it would be a good idea to go and stop by and grab something to eat before the game.
And your husband didn't, and that's why he was so hungry after the game. Good on you, ma'am. Good on you.
When you say varsity team, which
Joking,
sport?
because he said
It's
he was the one that
basketball.
was like, I'm
Was that
hungry.
your older daughter or younger daughter that was on that team?
My older daughter played on that team.
And so at some point there was a game for the varsity girls basketball team.
That's correct.
And where was that game that night?
At Canton High,
And do you recall who they played that night?
they played Foxborough.
And do you recall
Don't ask if they
when
won.
the game was?
You mean time?
Yes.
6:30.
Yeah, he doesn't
So
ask
You
great
mentioned that you went to the
questions,
Canton
ma'am.
Junction for about an hour.
Sorry.
So about what time did you get to the Canton Junction?
I believe I got there around 6. I'm not sure.
And
Y'all stay safe
following
in
Canton
Kentucky.
Junction, where did you go from there?
Went to Canton High to watch my daughter play.
And within sort of the stands at a Canton High girls varsity basketball game, were there certain people that you would typically sort of sit with when you watch the game?
We would just sit with whoever we knew. Usually it was the parents of the girls that played on the varsity team.
And who were some of those parents?
Some of them were the McCabe's, the Fitzgeralds, people like that.
And the McCabe's, what are their names?
Jennifer and Matt McCabe.
And how long had you and your family known the McCabe's?
I think we've known them for about 9 years or so.
And did they have a daughter on the team as well?
They did.
And so you arrived to the game. As far as your husband was concerned, did you observe him there?
He was there already.
Okay. And where did you go to sit?
I went in I don't exactly remember where I went to sit in the vicinity of my husband and those parents.
And following that game, where did you go from there?
So after the game, we went, usually at the end of the game, you'd go down, talk to the players, congratulate them, and then I told everybody I was going home.
And did you in fact go home?
Did anyone call you
I
names?
did go home.
And after you arrived home, what if anything happened?
I got a text.
I started getting text messages from my
Where
husband,
are you
and he
at?
said that some of the parents were going to go to grab something to eat, and I should go.
And what, if any, hesitation did you have about that?
I was tired. I worked all day. Pretty much I was done. So I had
Same.
already almost started changing out of my clothes, and I said I wasn't going to go.
Same.
And eventually,
Same.
did you decide to go?
My kids told me to go. They did. They actually, they said to me, you never go out. You don't do anything. Dad's by himself. You should go and just keep him company while he eats dinner.
Ma'am.
So that's what I did.
Ma'am, we feel you. Ma'am, you are our people. I'm done. I've worked all day. I've gone to a basketball game. I just want to go home and take off my pants and wash my face. And I'm done with people. And the kids are like, Mom, you never go out. You should go. And see, kids, now she ends up in court. Let her introvert, man. Let her introvert. I feel you. All she wants is Wingstop. Let this woman go home. I get it. I get
On
it.
that, you decided to go?
I did.
She's just
Reluctantly.
delightful. She's just delightful.
Sorry, reluctantly I went, yes.
And where is it that you went?
So that's when I went to CF. I'm sorry, I went to the Waterfall. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
And is the Waterfall, is that somewhere you would?
Ma'am, you're delightful.
I had been to the Waterfall before.
And where is that located in the town of Canton?
It's on Washington Street in Canton.
And so obviously your husband was already there. You took separate cars. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And about what time is it that you got to the Waterfall?
I believe I got to the Waterfall around 9:30 at night.
And where did you park your car in relation to the Waterfall?
So I actually found parking right on Washington Street, and I was across the street from the Waterfall.
I just wonder why it matters where she
And when you
parks.
arrived and when you came in,
Is it going to become relevant?
who, if anyone, did you recognize sort of when you first came into?
That's relevant.
So I walked into the Waterfall, and there, pretty much, I didn't know anybody except for Matt McCabe, Jennifer McCabe, and my husband.
And if you could describe for the jury sort of when you walk in the door, the people that you knew as far as your husband and the McCabes, where were they in relation to you walk in the door, where are they?
So you walk in the door, there was a band in the front playing, and then there were high top tables. And
Chat, if you know, you know. My question is black SUV, white SUV for this lovely witness. Just let me know your guess. Let me know your guess.
they were at the back of the high top tables.
And if I was standing sort of at the doorway of the Waterfall, the entrance way in, and facing those high top tables, which side were your husband and the McCabes on from that perspective?
On the right. I believe the band was playing on the, if you walked in the door, the band was in like the top part of the, like on the left, and they were on the right.
And the band that was playing that night, fair to say, it was fairly loud in there?
It was extremely loud in there, yes.
And as far as, obviously you're at a bar, people are.
And chat, for those of you that don't know the memes about the SUV moms, there is a joke about the SUV moms and being a white SUV mom or a black SUV mom and how socially it relates to you being a white SUV mom or a black SUV mom. So it is a joke about whether you are a white SUV mom or a black SUV mom. That's very funny and always delights me on Instagram.
Are drinking, is that correct?
That is correct.
And
I drive
what,
a
if
black
anything, did
SUV
you
with tinted
have
windows.
that night?
I drank water that night.
And why was that?
I typically don't drink a lot. I suffer from migraines, so one like
Relate.
alcoholic beverage sometimes can set me off for days. So I chose water.
Now, as far as that high top table that you went to with your husband and the McCabes, were there other people at that table?
There were other people there.
And did you know or recognize any of those other people at the table?
So it was pretty much all of Jennifer McCabe's family. I did not know them, maybe had seen them around town and stuff like that, but I didn't know anybody other than my husband and Matt and Jen.
She's like, I work a lot.
Fair to say that you sort of gravitated or stayed towards that end of the table?
That is correct. I talked to them for a bit, and then I think Jen started introducing me to some people, and I met some of her family.
Now, as far as sort of the overall sort of demeanor within the bar that night and within the group that you were at the high top table with, how would you describe it?
Everybody was happy, having a good time.
No arguments amongst anybody at any time that you saw throughout the entire time you were there?
The whole time I was there was no issues at all.
Now, at some point later on in the evening, who, if anyone else, that you recognized or knew came into the bar?
So I believe I was actually about to leave, and that's when Karen and John came in.
And just to be clear, when you say Karen, you mean Karen Reed, is that correct?
That
So
is
she
correct.
got there after 9.
Just to be clear, who we're
Karen
talking
and John
about,
get there
you see
around
Karen
11.
Reed today.
So she's like,
I
I
do.
was really ready to go.
Identify as to where she's seated or how it's closed.
She's sitting right there.
She's like,
That's
I
the
wanted to
record
leave.
identification.
Okay.
Now, Mr. O'Keefe, John O'Keefe, how did you know him?
So John, His niece and my younger daughter were friends.
Were friends, are friends?
They are friends.
And about how long had you known John O'Keefe?
John, we've probably known for 8 years or so.
And if you recall, when was it about that you had met the defendant, Ms. Reed?
I met Miss Reed at, I'm not sure exactly I think the first time I met her was at Jen McCabe's house.
And if you know about when was that in reference to this date of January 28th, 2020?
I believe I met her sometime in 2020.
Sometime in 2020 at Ms. McCabe's house.
That is correct.
And how would you describe sort of the nature of your relationship between either yourself and Mr. O'Keefe, or yourself and who did you know better, Mr. O'Keefe or Ms. Reed?
I knew Mr. O'Keefe better. We saw him all the time. My daughter would have play dates with his niece. My husband coached basketball that his niece played on his team. So he was a great guy. We saw him all the time. Yeah.
And prior to this date of January 28th, had you ever been in any kind of social setting out with the defendant, Ms. Reed, before?
I had not been, no.
And do you recall approximately what time it was that they came in and you were about to?
I believe it was around 11 o'clock.
She's like, I was ready to go home.
At some point, did they, and by they I mean Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, did they make their way over to where you were seated at the high top?
They did. So they walked in, and John did his rounds, said hi to everybody, gave me a hug. And they headed towards us. Yes.
I imagine that Lolly knows his next question.
And when they came over,
and then what? And then what?
Just keep.
And then what?
John was really happy. He started talking about Kaylee and how she had just gotten into Bishop Fian, and he was just very excited. You could tell he was super excited about that.
Now, as far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, what, if anything, do you recall about what he was wearing?
I believe he was wearing a baseball hat, jeans, sneakers, some kind of top.
And what, if anything, do you recall about sort of a jacket or anything like that with him at any time that you saw him that night?
I don't remember a jacket. I remember like some kind of light shirt or something, like a light hoodie-ish kind of. I don't remember a jacket.
As far as his clothing was concerned,
no jacket.
What, if anything, you recall about the condition of it? Were there any sort of tears or disheveled to?
He looked fine. Nothing about his clothing stood out to me.
She's like, he was in clothes.
Now, as far as what you observed as far as interactions between the defendant.
Has Ollie asked yet what, if anything, was he wearing, assuming that he's naked?
While you were at the bar?
I'm waiting.
The defendant. Say that again?
As far as their interactions between.
Oh, yeah, ma'am. His questions are bad. It's not you.
Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant. Anything
Karen.
Out of the ordinary that you observed between the two of them that evening at the bar?
I saw nothing. I did not see anything.
Karen.
And extending that sort of to the entire group at the high top table that you were with, anything that you observed sort of out of the realm of the demeanor that you've already described at any point in time?
Is that a question? There were so many words. Great, everyone's demeanor is fine.
Now, with regard to sort of where you were positioned at the high top table in regard to Mr. O'Keefe, was he closer to your end, or where was he located?
I'm not sure. I don't know where he ended up going. I know that Karen stayed with me. And then I'm not sure where John went, but I know he was talking to the guys, probably.
So Mr. O'Keefe was moving around a bit, talking to different people.
They were chatting.
Yes.
And
at the
Ms.
bar.
Reed was down towards where you were, is that correct?
That is correct.
Somebody's cheering.
And if anyone else was sort of down your end of the table, who were you talking to when Ms. Reed came up?
It was Jen.
That is so compound. There's like 3 questions in that question to just ask. Who did you see him talking to?
McCabe,
So
the 3 of us.
They
when Ms.
were
Reed
talking
comes
with
and
Jen
joins,
McCabe.
essentially Ms. Reed, the defendant, yourself, and Ms. McCabe.
That is correct.
And when Ms. Reed first comes up, what, if any, conversation did she have with either yourself or Ms. McCabe?
She started talking to Jen first, and then they had a conversation, and then we started talking.
And that first sort of initial conversation between the defendant and Ms. McCabe, did you hear any of that conversation?
I did not. It was loud. I don't know what they were talking about.
Now, as far as, obviously you're at a bar and people are drinking, what, if anything, did you observe Mr. O'Keefe to be drinking that night?
I believe he was drinking beer.
And as far as Ms. Reed was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe her to be drinking that night?
She was drinking something out of a clear glass, perhaps.
So clear glass with a clear liquid in it?
Correct.
No, I don't think Lally actually
Now, as
asked
far
what, if
as
anything, was he wearing.
Any conversation that you had?
I was
with either
joking.
the defendant
I don't think
or
he said
Mr.
that.
O'Keefe,
He might have.
did you have any understanding of sort of where they came from prior to coming in?
His questions numb
So they
my
had come
brain.
from across the street,
No, it's probably hearsay.
And what is across the street?
from the bar. I think so. It was CF McCarthy's.
And so as far as the conversation that you, at some point in time during the course of the evening, you had a conversation with Ms. Reed, is that correct?
Sorry.
We talked for quite a while.
And during that time that you were talking for quite a while, as far as, was that strictly sort of the 2 of you, or was Ms. McCabe involved in those conversations as well?
Miss McCabe was involved with those conversations.
So just to,
It was the 3 of
the
us.
3 of you are talking. Okay. And with respect, to the defendant's relationship with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did she say about that?
So she started by saying how much she admired him, how much he did for the children, just how she looked up to him for that. She started with that. Well, she started talking about my kids first, and then she started talking about John.
So she spoke about your kids?
About my daughter, yeah.
A little bit of a glowing fashion, is that correct?
She did. She always had a way of like saying, I don't know, she seemed to love my younger daughter, and she said that she really liked my daughter's relationship with John's niece. So she first started with that conversation, and then she went on talking about John and
So she was
his relationship.
praising the friendship of these young women,
Talked a little bit about that. What,
of the
if anything
girls.
else did she talk about?
and then talking
So
about
she
how
started
much she
talking
admired
about
John.
how much he sacrifices, how he's like unconditionally puts all his time and effort into the kids, how she admired him for that, and how she also wished that some of the family members would step up and help out a little bit more because he took all the burden on himself.
And what, if anything, else did she say about that in relation to sort of their relationship?
Just that she wished they had a little bit more time to, go out, go on dates, go on vacation. But she did mention that they had planned a trip or something like that, that she was excited about.
Now, about what time would you say it was that you left from the Waterfall?
I think everything started wrapping up around midnight.
And prior to that, what, if any, discussion did you hear or were you a part of as far as anybody talking about where to go next?
So I think everybody was having a really good time. So there was conversation first about where could people go, and there was talk about maybe going across the street to the pizza place.
They were like, "We're keeping
And
this party
what
going.
pizza
Snowstorm be damned."
There's a pizza place called D&E Pizza, and the owner happens to be there that night. So I think someone brought it up, or there was some conversation amongst the group, like, "Hey, let's go there," and he said no.
And
They were like,
what, if
"Chris, my guy." I wonder if the pizza place was open or closed. My guy, feed us pizza. I can see how this plays out. Feed us pizza. My guy, let's open your restaurant and get us some pizza. And then Chris was like, no. And so then they went back to Brian Albert's house. But so far what the defense has elicited or what the prosecution has elicited is that the defendant admired the relationship that Kaylee had with this witness's daughter and loved how close that friendship was, which stands out to me a lot because these are junior high school girls. So that's not always easy for everybody. So complimenting what kind kids they are and how good they are together is really observant and kind. And then how much she respected, admired, and looked up to the victim and how he stepped up for his niece and nephew and took care of them. And then that there was some frustration that they didn't get a lot of time as a couple. Okay. So she's not mad. That's like couple stuff. I wish we had more time for us. Okay, Prosecutor Lally. Okay.
What, if anything, did you hear the defendant, Ms. Reed, say?
Everyone's lovely, and this is horribly tragic.
She just seemed like willing to go.
Was that something that she mentioned once or more than once?
I believe she mentioned it more than once, but I don't remember like at this moment, but.
Is your memory exhausted as to that?
Say that. Could you rephrase that?
Memory exhausted as to.
It's a weird phrase. So you don't remember? You don't remember?
I believe it was more than once. Is that your question?
Remember.
That's my question.
Yes.
He doesn't know what his question is. He kept saying, is your memory exhausted? She's like, your questions are exhausting, but I don't remember. Is your memory exhausted as to that is the weirdest turn of phrase ever. No wonder she's like, what?
Now, other than that, what, if any, other discussion was there as far as where people were wanting to go or intending to go after the war?
So after that was kind of, put to rest, then I think there was discussion about, Jen McCabe brought up, let's go to my sister's house.
And is that somewhere that you or your husband, to your knowledge, had ever been to before?
We had never been to her house before, no.
And was that something that was sort of a private invitation, or was that sort of open to the group at the table?
I think it was said out loud, like, hey, anybody wants to go, we can go to my sister's on Fairview. I wasn't specifically invited myself. I just think it was put out there.
She was ready to go the fuck home. She wasn't looking for whether she was invited to the after party.
Take anyone up on it?
She's ready to take off her bra, Lally.
We did not go. I actually said to him, there's no way we're going anywhere. We're going home.
And just to be clear, by him, you mean your husband?
My husband, yeah.
And around the time of midnight or so when you were leaving, who, if anyone, did you sort of walk out with initially?
So I believe...
she said, we're going home, period.
It was always Jen, myself, and Karen. So we got up, and Karen went over to John, something like that. He put his arm around her. I don't know if they had a conversation, they talked. It seemed like they were quite lovey-dovey at that point. And then that's when Jennifer McCabe...
You made a comment to your husband, why aren't you lovey-dovey with me like that? Is it... Please, I want to know when that happens.
They went up to Karen and said, you're coming with me. And she grabbed her. She put her arm around her and she said in front of me, she's like, you're coming with me, you're coming with me.
And just to be clear, sort of how she said that, was that in sort of a forceful way or
no, joking around, hey, you come with me. We're gonna, and Karen said, where are we going? And Jen said, it doesn't matter. It'll be a surprise. It was something like that.
And did the three of you sort of walk towards the door to the parking lot together?
Yes.
And where was your husband at this point?
He was behind. He was with Matt McCabe. They were helping the band clean up and get their stuff together. And it was the three of us in the front, meaning the women.
And at the initial time when you're walking out, you and Ms. McCabe and the defendant, where is Mr. O'Keefe?
I'm not, a little bit behind us. I'm not sure.
Not directly with your group, but
Not with us, no.
now at some point you get outside of the waterfall, is that correct?
That's correct.
And at some point when you're outside of the waterfall, do you see Mr. O'Keefe at that point?
I did. All of a sudden, it was weird. I see Karen with John, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I thought she was going with Jen. And that's just what made me notice it. It was that the whole, like, Jen wanting Karen to go with her, and then all of a sudden I see Karen with John. I just thought, it was just like, oh, so it made me notice it.
And so you proceed to your car, I'm presuming on Washington Street, correct?
That is correct.
And if you recall, which direction was your car facing, like down towards the waterfall or away from the waterfall?
It was away from the waterfall.
And who, if anyone else, did you observe walking in the direction of Washington Street at the same time as yourself?
That's when I saw Karen and John walking.
The other
And
way.
they were walking in that direction as well?
Correct.
Did you see
same
them
direction.
approach or get near to some sort of vehicle?
It looked like they got, they
That's
were
why he asked
walking
where
towards
she
a black SUV of some sort.
That's why he asked where she
And have
parked.
you seen either the defendant or Mr. O'Keefe in relation to a dark or a black SUV prior to that date?
I believe I had, yes.
And whose car did you believe it was?
I thought it was Karen's car.
And which side of that vehicle did you observe Karen walking to?
She was walking to the driver's side, but again, I was more concerned about crossing Washington Street, and there was a little bit of snow at that point. So I didn't see, like, I saw them walking in that direction, like her going to the driver's side and John going to the other side, but I didn't see anything after that.
And were they on the same side of the street as you or the opposite?
They were facing the opposite direction.
So you were facing away from the waterfall, they were facing towards the waterfall, is that right?
They were just like, we were in different directions. So I was like, it's hard to explain, but they were facing, like I was facing up and they were facing back.
And different sides of the street, is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you got in your car when you left, is that correct?
That is correct.
And around that time that you left, I think you alluded to it, but when you got to your car, what was the weather like at that point?
It had just started snowing. You could see the street still.
So you could still sort of see the blacktop through whatever snow was on the
Sort
ground.
of.
That is correct.
You could still see it. Or no.
With the court's permission, I'd just like to
Move it along.
publish what's been marked as Exhibit 53, just a couple of portions of that on the screen for this witness.
Okay.
This is probably camera footage from outside facing the cars, which is why he was asking where she parked.
And Ms. Gilman, if I
show
could,
them leaving
I'd
together.
ask first for the second video.
So we'll
from,
see if
Channel 3.
John O'Keefe is carrying anything out of the bar or not. Don't let me
And
move
again,
me.
if I could ask for
Emily, move
approximately,
yourself.
59.
Wrong way.
And if you could just so Ms. Kolokithas, do you recognize what's up on the screen?
Yes.
And what do you recognize it to be?
That's the waterfall.
And is this a video that you've seen on a prior occasion?
Yes.
Now, before you, ma'am, there should be a laser pointer. If there's any need for either myself or another attorney, all I would ask you to do is just sort of press that button on it and direct it at the screen.
Okay.
The defense has their other one that's easier to see.
So from this video...
Sorry, Lally, nobody wants your green
the-
laser pointer. The other one with the little circle.
First of all,
is
as far as the people
more clear.
In the video, do you recognize anybody in the video?
It's really hard to see, but it's you want me to point?
If you recognize
the
anyone, I would
pointer.
ask you to draw the jury's attention
So-
to that person and explain who that is.
Oh, sorry. That, I believe, is my husband with that. Maybe, I'm not
She's like,
sure.
I'm not sure.
If you don't know, or if you can't tell, or you don't know the people,
It's okay.
I'm not sure.
okay.
It's hard to tell.
Now, Mrs. Kolokithas, just from up on this video, you recognize sort of the table that you were at or around on the evening of January
Yes,
28th?
the high topped, yeah.
And if you could just direct the jury's attention to, generally speaking, which side of the table that you spent your time talking to Ms. McCabe and the defense?
So, like, if we're pointing to here, I'd be on that side, like the left side of the table, if you want to call it the left side.
And the area where the band was,
Is
if you could.
The band is here, like, that's what I meant, the left, yeah, in the front.
And if you know the front door area, sort of where is that located?
So it's like right there.
Behind the band.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could just run this video from 10:59 to 11 p.m.
The band is playing. We can see that. We can see the dude in what looks like it might be a Harley Davidson sweatshirt, maybe. And I think if this witness has the ponytail, she's up at the top of the screen talking to Karen Reed. But I don't know if this witness is the one with the ponytail or not. The band's like, yep, it's 11 o'clock. We out. Good night, everybody. I don't know if my mouse will show it properly. It's really hard for me to point at the screen. But the woman who's kind of by herself has a ponytail.
Permission, I would ask for from the same channel 3, the 6th video. And
This is
Gilman, if I could
12:01.
direct you to 12:09, 50 seconds.
The band is gone. That was fast.
Again, Mrs. Kolokithas, you recognize what's up on the screen as
And if that's her in the jacket, then she was not the one with the
That is
ponytail.
correct, yes.
And is this towards the end of the evening?
Yes, it is.
There had been a
Fair to say
jacket
that
on the
lights
chair.
are turned up, so it's a little easier.
So
to
now
see.
I can recognize a few more people.
And so from what you can see up on the screen now, if you could, using that laser pointer, just direct the jury's attention to anybody that you recognize.
Oh, okay, so that's me right there. And then my husband is right there, Nicholas. And I don't know if that's Matt, Jen. And I can't tell because of the
Timestamp.
barcode up there.
And then the victim
But, yeah, I
is
can't see who
beyond
is.
that with the gray with the black sleeves. And then I think Karen is right next to him.
Ms. Gilman, if you could play it from this.
Oh, I see John too. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
And I see John. John's right there.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if you could play it from this point till 12:11 and 4 seconds.
A fair point. The band might have also been like, oh, weather's coming. Let's go. Let's get on the road. Nobody wants to be out in crappy weather.
Ms. Gilman, if you could pause it right there. Now, as far as this is the record, we're at 12, 10, and 38. You see sort of 3 individuals going towards the front entrance.
I see two. Oh,
Yes.
I see a shoe.
Yes.
And with respect, if with that laser pointer, if you could just identify for the jury who, if anyone, you recognize from that group.
Okay, so that's Jennifer McCabe, that's me, and that's Karen.
So you're walking sort of towards the exit at the same time, right?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if you could.
I hope he lets this play out as everybody leaves because it would be helpful to see. So the victim had finished his beer and put it down and has a glass in his hand and is walking right out with it.
Pause that, Mr. Now there's another individual sort of making their way to the doorway. Do you recognize that person?
Yes, that's John.
That's John O'Keefe.
John O'Keefe, yes.
Exiting from the water.
Correct.
Yep, picked up the glass that was on the table,
Gilman,
finished his beer, put it down, picked up the glass that was on the table and took it right out with him.
Now, Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you from the same exhibits, but from channel 1. And the third video down on channel 1. If I could ask you to fast forward to about 12:11. Essentially, what I'm going to ask is
So light dusting of snow.
You could play this from 12:11 and 0 to 12:11 and 25 seconds. But I'm sorry, first, if I could ask you to just pause it for 1 second. And I know it's an awful time to pause it, but before the flag blew in front of the camera, do you recognize what's depicted up there?
Maybe let the flag move out the way.
What's in this video generally without what's blocking the camera right now? Do you recognize what?
It's the exit.
So that's the exit to the waterfall?
Correct.
Thank you. Ms. Gilman, if you could. If you could pause right there.
The flag indicates that it's windy.
Individual sort of down towards the bottom of the frame. Do you recognize who that is?
It's Karen and John.
So that would be the point in time where you say they sort of link up at the front door and then walk towards Washington Street?
That's correct.
And if you could, just with reference to the screen that we're looking up here in Exhibit 53, where is Washington Street where you had parked and where you observed Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed walking to?
So, okay. Trying to think of the buildings. That's the back parking lot where where you see the cars, and you have to take a left.
So directly in front of where Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed are standing is the back parking lot, and then to the left is Washington Street?
Yeah, I think you have to walk that way.
Okay.
And then you'll hit Washington Street.
Ms. Gilman, if you could just play through the 25 seconds.
Well, that glass in his hand was clear as day in that screenshot or that frame.
You could pause there. Have you seen an individual in the parking lot area?
I do.
Somebody
You
standing there with
recognize
white
that person?
shoes.
I believe it's Jennifer,
By that you mean, I'm sorry, Ms. McCabe?
Miss McCabe.
And Ms. Gilman, if you go to
It's
the left.
not easy to see. You can see the white shoes by the car, now walking away from the car.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that down, please. May I have one moment, John?
Yes.
If you guys are asking, did the victim walk to
I have
the
no
home?
further questions for this witness, Your
They
Honor.
drove.
Okay,
Karen,
cross-examination.
the prosecution says Karen
Your Honor.
drove. They haven't established that yet.
Hello.
No, they all drove.
You and I have never met.
We have not.
We've never had a conversation.
Never.
We've certainly never interviewed
Nope.
together.
Never.
So this is our first time speaking.
Yes.
I want to direct your attention to part of your testimony on direct examination when you're questioning by Mr. Lally. You indicated that before Ms. Reed and Mr. O'Keefe left the bar, Ms. Reed had been making some statements about Mr. O'Keefe.
Okay. Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
You indicated that she said that she admired him,
Yes.
that she looked up to Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
She always had a way of complimenting him.
Yes.
That he took so much responsibility on as it pertained to the children,
Yes.
and that she did wish that they had more time together.
Yes.
They had planned a trip together,
Yes.
and she was excited about that.
Correct.
And she indicated that John was excited about that as well.
Yes.
Just before leaving the bar, you indicated that Jennifer McCabe said to Miss Reed,
For those of you asking if he's allowed to take the drink out of the bar, no, but did. But no,
"You're coming with me."
but did.
Correct?
Yes.
She didn't say, "You and John come with me."
No. Correct.
That was directed just to Miss Reed.
Yes.
And that's Jen saying, you're coming
Town
with
of
me.
Canton generally?
Yes,
You know that the distance between the Waterfall bar and 34 Fairview would be maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes drive.
probably.
So just after these statements were made, they went to 34 Fairview. 5 minutes later, 7 minutes later, they'd be sitting in front of 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I have.
No one had asked that yet, how far it was between 34 Fairview and the bar.
Anything?
I'm befuddled as to why the prosecution has never elicited how far the drive was, but now we know about 5 to 7 minutes. Chat, you already knew this, but now the jury knows about 5 to 7 minutes.
Just very briefly, Your Honor. So, Mrs. Kolokithas, with reference to your relationship with John O'Keefe, as far as what you were relaying was what the defendant had said to you at the bar that night, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
And fair to say you didn't have any conversation with Mr. O'Keefe in reference to relationship or trips or anything like that?
Not that night. No.
And as far as your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe is, do you have any sort of discussions at any point in time about sort of his relationship with Miss Reed or anything going on in that relationship?
He didn't tell me personal things. No.
You didn't have that type of relationship, correct?
Correct.
And this timeout on January 28th, that was the first time that you had been out socially with the defendant, Miss Reed, correct?
Correct.
And so as far as what went on behind sort of closed doors at their home or anything like that, you didn't know anything about it?
I did not know.
Nothing further.
She's like, sir, I'm a pharmacist.
I have one question, Your Honor,
I
if I
talk
may.
to people all day.
But what you did observe between the two of them that night, to use your words, they were lovey-dovey.
They were.
And did you make a comment to your husband about it? Because we're dying to know.
Thank you, Your
Because he
Honor.
said how great he thought you were in his testimony.
So it's quarter I see counsel for just a minute.
Oh, they're going to talk about scheduling.
Feel free to stand.
We're going to be at the end of the day. They're going to talk about scheduling, and they're going to wrap this up.
Early, and we'll start. And it makes sense to let you go a little early, and we'll start fresh tomorrow. Okay, so please do not discuss this case with
Huzzah!
anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. So we'll see you tomorrow night.
Jurors, closing your notebooks and leaving them on the chairs. Gather your belongings. Follow me. All rise. Jury out, please.
All rise. Jury out. Jury out? Sorry.
Goodbye.
Yep. Well, that's the end of court for today. All rise. Jury out. It's like Ryan Seacrest ending early days of Idol with Seacrest out. That's what's in my mind. That's it. All right. And that was the end of the feed. So I imagine there was not anything else on any of the other feeds. We are at the end of day 7. Let's see. I'm going to just zoom to the end of Court TV's feed and just make sure there wasn't any additional chitty chat at the end of the court day. And there was not. It just panned right out. Okay. So we are at the end.
Northwest side of Charlotte.
Sorry, did I just immediately put on Ryan Hall y'all's feed? I did, but I hadn't muted it yet. That's exactly what I did. Because I needed to switch what was on my third screen. Look, we immediately went to weather. Immediately to weather. I will be checking back in on that periodically because they are keeping an eye on the stormy, swirly weather across the country today and does an incredible job at it. Let's go ahead and wrap up the rest of the day. We've got a minute to answer some questions and then chat. We're done for this day, and then we will be in court for a half day tomorrow. There were some really delightful moments today just because the individuals who testified were delightful. It's different than the heavy tension and the push-pull with law enforcement when we get into the civilian witnesses who are like, I was out with my friend and this is what we did. So let's wrap up real quick, and then I'll let you all go watch the weather where you're at, or get on with your day. Or go watch the Emily Show podcast, because that dropped today if you need an update on Scandival. Let me know in the chat, those of you that are my reality TV peeps, if you think Vanderpump Rules is done, because that's starting to feel like a series finale for me, but we're here to wrap the day. We're here to wrap the day. At the end of day 7 of the Commonwealth versus Karen Read, all day today we had civilian witnesses that were establishing the timeline and interactions between the defendant and the victim the night leading into the early morning hours before Officer O'Keefe was found at 34 Fairview. So we heard from witnesses who were out early at CF McCarthy's bar with the defendant and the victim. We heard from witnesses that were then later at the Waterfall with the defendant and the victim. And then we saw surveillance video from both bars, saw the surveillance video wrapping, and the entire bar at the Waterfall shut down by like 12:17 a.m. the morning of the 29th, and seeing everybody leaving that bar around 12:10 with a light dusting of snow outside, and the victim walking out of the bar in a black hat, a hoodie that's gray with black sleeves, and carrying a clear glass. From the one watch of the video, the prosecution didn't ask about this at all, but from the one watch of the video, it looked like he finished a beer and picked up the remainder of a drink off the table. It might have been Karen Read's drink. It's consistent with what she was drinking. Picked that up, walked out of the bar with it, and was walking down the road with it. A lot of you asked, is he allowed to do that? No. But did he? Yes. Yes. So we got into the friends and community of Officer John O'Keefe, the relationships between John O'Keefe's niece and mostly niece and her friends and their parents, and really talking about not just the connectedness, but the support this community had for each other, picking up kids, getting them a their parents, going out together after a kid's basketball game, and really spending some lovely time together. My weather is getting cranky. Apologies. And really spending some lovely time together. We saw how really just lovely this friend group was. And everyone who talked about Karen Read in testimony today talked about her love for John O'Keefe. The last two witnesses talked about the fact that she admired him and was talking about how much he sacrificed to take care of his niece and nephew. One witness said they very much wished that Karen Read stated she very much wished the other members of John O'Keefe's family would step up and help with the kids a little bit so that she and John could spend a bit more time together, and that they had a vacation planned and she was excited about that vacation. Nothing in my mind at this point that goes to ill feelings, things that are very normal. It seemed that the thing Karen Read wanted to do was spend some money on the kids and spoil them a little bit, and spend a bit more time with John O'Keefe, who all these witnesses stated she admired very much and who had a good relationship and were very, very connected and very lovey-dovey and kind of hugging on each other and touching each other and just really being very connected that evening. And one of the witnesses joked that his wife mentioned, like, you're not like that with me. And then he said, but I spent a lot of time with my wife. The last two witnesses on the stand were a married couple, husband and wife, the Kolokithas. They were really delightful witnesses. And it really is a very different tenor and tone from what we had through the first days of trial with the police witnesses. So I think we will continue seeing this timeline of the group at the Waterfall leaving and going to 34 Fairview. But we now know that 34 Fairview is about 5 to 7 minutes away from the Waterfall, that everybody was leaving about 12:10 p.m., that Karen and the defendant were last seen walking towards Karen's car. I don't know if we will see any witnesses that saw Karen get into the driver's side and drive away. We will get into that. I wonder if the reason the prosecution, sorry, this is literally how I'm thinking through the case in real time. I wonder if the reason the prosecution told the jury on the jury view to pay attention to the interior of the car is because Karen Reed doesn't strike me as a particularly tall woman, and John O'Keefe was over 6'2". And I wonder if the placement of the driver's seat is what the prosecution was asking them to look at. Look, we know that Karen Reed was driving the car because the car went back and was parked at John O'Keefe's house and didn't move. Then again, she could have just changed it. If he had moved the seat back, she could have just changed it back when she drove it back to John O'Keefe's house later. But I wonder if that's one of the things they were considering is, look, we know she was driving. But they have charged a driving under the influence causing death to Karen Reed. And they haven't really gotten into anyone that seems to have seen Karen Reed inebriated. Everybody, except for the last witness, was drinking and then left the location. But the bartender didn't seem to believe Karen Reed was all that intoxicated. Others didn't indicate that Karen Reed was all that intoxicated. So the prosecution still has a long way to go. I think what we've ended the day with is that Karen and John were a loving couple that had a lovely night at the bar with friends. And then something happened. And we don't know what. And I don't know what. It just seems like a lovely community, doesn't it? It seems like a group of friends that really enjoyed spending time together, doesn't it? So with all of that, I'm going to get to your questions, and then we will wrap for the day. And y'all, I probably need to I probably need to do some laundry today. I've been putting it off for like a week. So let's get to your questions. Daydream 1013 in the chat mentioned at the end of the Court TV stream, they were talking a little bit about evidence and scheduling. So I'm going to go try to pull that up real quick. It gets really hard with the long streams to even see what's at the end of them, but I'm going to go pull that up real quick just to see. It hadn't looked like anything, but I really appreciate the heads up. Chat is Bay. So, it is always very helpful because I definitely won't catch everything, especially after streaming for as long as I stream on these days. Wait, nope, that's the Chad Daybell trial. Wrong one. Wrong day. All right, let's try to get to the very end of the day here and zoom past it. Let's see. This is the very end of this witness. I love that the bailiffs are just like, jury out. And then the judge is like, judge out. Like, we're just out. So I'm going to put that on as I start pulling up some of your questions as we get into this. All right, let's see. So, oh, no, Emily, you don't have your volume on. Not even a cute little scooch of volume there. All right, they're going up to sidebar. We'll see what they put on the record. Thank you so much for the note. Thank you, mods, for flagging that. The mods have been absolutely incredible. I appreciate you. You help grow this community and make sure that those that want to come in and, be a bit disrespectful don't. Law nerds, you're amazing too. With that, don't forget to thank your moderators and subscribe. For those of you that are just finding this channel during this trial, go ahead and put the one in.
And it makes sense to let you go a little early.
She's letting the jury go.
Okay, so please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation.
Spicy Vet Man, we've got weather tonight and tomorrow.
If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about
looks like it's going to be a little north of Nashville.
Please disregard it and let us know. So we'll see you tomorrow night.
Jurors, closing your notebooks and leaving them on the chairs. Gather your belongings. Follow me. All rise, jury out, please.
All rise, jury out. God, I love this bailiff. They start the morning with hear ye, and then they're like, jury out. Kimberly was answering a question for retired 5-0. This investigation is being investigated. So for those of you that are like, what the fuck is happening?
Goodbye.
This investigation is being investigated. How did they go to trial on this? I'm waiting to find out. When I find out, when I see the thing that I'm like, that's why they went to trial on this, I will let you know. I am not there yet. I have not seen the thing that went, that has gone in my mind. Oh, okay, this is why we're going forward. In the Murdaugh case, I was waiting in the Murdaugh case for like, what's the thing? And then you get into Murdaugh lying, and then you get into the video from the kennel with Bubba, and I'm like, that's the thing. And then you go from there. I'm not there yet on this case. I don't know yet. I have not seen the thing where I'm like, this is why you charged the case. Nope, don't know. I was a person who charged cases. Don't know, can't figure it out. Waiting to see. Just waiting to figure it out. So we'll see. I don't know how they made that decision. They took it to a grand jury. The grand jury indicted. There's questions about the grand jury. The defense has made multiple motions to dismiss. I have not gone through those. A lot of things were sealed in this case.
Any evidentiary issues I need to be concerned about tomorrow with this next witness?
Who's next? And is it Jen McCabe?
Your Honor, we have, I believe, provided every exhibit that we intend to introduce through this witness. They are all photographs and or screenshots that we would have lined up. I'm happy to show them to Mr. Lally in terms of the specific ones that we would be using before we leave today.
Okay, so just so it's clear, anything you intend to introduce, you have to show them in advance.
I know,
Yeah, they know
we
that.
provided them is what I said originally.
They're turned over.
So,
And I certainly will show them before I show them to the witness. What I'm offering is to show them now before we break.
so yes, so I'm telling you that yes, show them to him before we
That's
break.
exactly what I suggested.
Anything that you intend to show us, introduce tomorrow.
Sure.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
All rise for the court, please.
Okay, it might be Caitlin Albert tomorrow. But to what we know is tomorrow's going to be spicy. So it might be Caitlin Albert tomorrow. Caitlin Albert, we now know, was at the Waterfall. I didn't put that in my summary, but we now know who was at the Waterfall with defendant Karen Reed and victim officer O'Keefe at the end of the evening, at least. Nobody's identified Caitlin Albert on the video yet, but somebody said that she was there. We also know that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were there in addition to the witnesses that testified today. So we don't know what witnesses are coming up tomorrow, but we haven't heard from Jen McCabe. She was at the Waterfall with her husband. We haven't heard from Caitlin Albert. If Caitlin Albert is testifying, the court was snipping at the defense saying, well, you have to turn them over. They're like, obviously we turn them over. We were just going to tell them what we were going to, or show them what we were going to show them tomorrow. So, you know, the judge just seemed to not be understanding what the defense was indicating and was like, no, you have to show them. And he's like, no, what? We've disclosed all of this. Did I already play our Q&A break yet? Did I do that yet? I don't know if I did, but you know, it's the end of the day. Yes, y'all. I don't know if we're calling the pickle Udilali. I don't know if we're there yet, but the pickle had been Gorilla Grip Pickle Pal. I think we're at Udilali for the pickle, but we may be persuaded to change it. That's not what I meant.
Did I change my soundboard? Yes. Do I sometimes get confused where my buttons are? Yes. Oh, we had also talked about my cousin Dilly. Yes, we had, which was really good. So just. I really did like my cousin Dilly.
I think my cousin Dilly was really good. So yes, chat, thank you for reminding me. You know, neurospicy brain. Let's get to some questions, some super chats, and to all of the things. For those of you in areas of weather, stay weather aware, keep yourselves alert. There's a lot going on this afternoon. All right, let's get to as many questions and super chats as we can. And then we are going to zoom. It looks like either I got to a lot of them or not a lot of them got started. Miguelina, I'm seeing 7. Let me know if you're seeing more on your end. Shelly said, thoroughly enjoying spending my birthday with you. Happy birthday, Shelly. You're in good Taurian company here. Is that what multiple Tauruses are called? Tauruses? It's just a herd. I don't know. Anyway, enjoy the birthday. Fiance in the replay crew, love you and thank you for making me feel so loved. Oh, Shelly, that's such a lovely super chat. And to Shelly's fiance, thank you for making Shelly feel so loved. That's just delightful. Jakessa said, please show some love to the amazing mods. They are, in fact, amazing. Bianca said, if there is a video of her possibly hitting her defendant, his victim's car and breaking the taillight, who would defense call to testify on it if she was the only one there? It is my understanding that there is, in fact, a video that the defense alluded to in their opening statement. I don't know who would authenticate that video for defense and how they would get it in. We will see who they call to testify that video is consistent. But we've already seen a lot of Ring doorbell footage that, yes, this is the outside of the house. Yes, this is what it looks like. The prosecution entered all of that with the victim's brother. So they might enter that with the victim's brother. I don't know. We will see. And then we will see what they say. Okay, Miguelina, you are seeing 49. Okay. I need to refresh real quick so that I don't miss any of y'all's super chats. So give me just a moment. We're going to put on a stretch break. I will be right back. I just have to refresh my screen. I'm putting on music, I promise. Thanks, chat. This is a good time for me to remind you that, the music stopped with the refresh. Oh no, you know what I should have done? I should have used the StreamYard music because when I kick myself out, it kicks my audio out. Chat, that's a fail on my part. We should have done it this way with StreamYard. That's exactly what we should have done. That's just on me. Next time I will remember to leave on the StreamYard music and not the Emily music. We're professionals here. What can we say? All right. So just a reminder, Lawnerd app is where you want to be. We have some exciting new things coming to the Lawnerd app. Some of you have already seen them. Others will see them soon. So just know there are big upgrades coming to the Lawnerd app. So if you are in there now, you will be some of the first to know. We also have some new merch coming out. You will be the first to know if you are in the Lawnerd app. So free app, iOS, Android. If you want to check it out, check it out. It's also the way that I will keep you in the loop when I go live and when other cases update. I will be putting updates and messages in there too, but stream notifications for sure. And as we get into civilian witnesses, we will be updating you witness by witness when some of the key witnesses take the stand. So if they call Jen McCabe tomorrow, not only will you hear that Jen McCabe has been called to the stand, but you will get the notification that I'm live. But if they call Jen McCabe, if they call Caitlin Albert, when they call Brian Albert or any of the other Alberts, I will be messaging you the second we have some of the key witnesses testifying, because I know that you guys are busy. I know that a lot of you can't watch trial all day long. I get it. We put the quick bits up. I notify those in the app too, so we do daily summaries. But when we get these key witnesses throughout the case in, now that we're through some of the slog of the foundational witnesses that we're challenging, I will be letting you know as those witnesses take the stand. I am going to probably send you 10 notifications when Proctor takes the stand. They're just going to be like red alert sirens. So we're going to be doing that. So I get it. Don't worry about missing a thing. If you have the Law & Order app, you won't. Again, we built it so it is free for you, so we can notify you when important shit happens in court, because life still happens while you're in court. But you don't want to miss Proctor. You don't want to miss Jen McCabe. Do I know what any of these witnesses are going to say? No. But when the defense is like, these are all the exhibits we're going to be using tomorrow, oh, I've immediately got questions. Immediately. And then some of you are already able to chat with one another in the app, and we will be rolling that out soon too. The Double Helix said Quick Bits has been a game changer for me. I can't always watch during the day, but I'm utterly invested in this trial. The Double Helix, that's why we do it. I get asked a lot when I interview, and I just did an interview with YouTube. I forgot to share that in the app this week. I'm going to do that today. But I just did an interview with YouTube, and I get asked, like, how did you decide to do this? Why did you pick a Quick Bits channel? I'm like, because people are busy. And I want our community to not feel like, oh, I missed 2 days, I can't jump back into trial. Great. Here's a 10-minute video that'll get you caught up real quick so you can jump back in. I hate when I feel behind. I hate the FOMO. I don't like it. It's like, oh, well, we're 4 days in. I'm fucked now. Like, I'm never going to catch up. I don't like that feeling. You don't like that feeling. So I started Quick Bits so that we could find a way for those that can watch all day. Great. If you miss something, here's my key takeaways and the main points and the highlights of the day. So that's why we do both. And they are contemporaneously my takeaways of what's important. And then the next day we get a little bit of like, I've had a chance to think about it, and these are my takeaways. And then by the time we get to the Monday episodes of Quick Bits, it's like, this is my takeaway from the week now that I've had some time to think about it, versus contemporaneously streaming while the trial's happening, because sometimes things will connect in my brain later on. So that is why we do it. That is absolutely why we do this. That is what matters. So let's see. Casey Cat said it's going to be called lollygagging for sure from here on out. Yep, it will be. Motion to add where, if any, and who, if any, one of the emojis. Jesse, I love your suggestion. However, I don't like that what, if any, is fucking spawning. It's just it's spawning into everything. I called Chris on my team today at lunch to chat with her about stuff for the app and other work stuff. And she answers the phone. She's like, hey, friend. And I'm like, what, if anything, are you doing right now? She's like, I'm going to need you to go ahead and shut the fuck up with that this second. I think I'm paraphrasing just a little bit. But we have also been friends for a very, very long time. But I was like, what, if anything, are you doing? She was like, immediately no, immediately no, immediately no. Fiona W., thank you for the gifted memberships. Jessica Hicks, good to see you in the chat. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. It was, well, my birthday went something like this. Can I go to sleep now? But I had appointments. I had to take my kid to the orthodontist, life things. Because when my husband looked at the calendar, he didn't go, oh, this is Emily's birthday. He went, oh, this is a Tuesday and somebody should be available to take him to the orthodontist. It happens. It happens. We've been together. We've been married like 22 years. We've been together 26 years. So these things happen. Lainey D said this entire trial is an exercise in, is the entire police force full ass corrupt, or is it just that dumb? Look, I'm not going to attribute malice until I see evidence of malice. I think there's a long way to go before we get to attributing malice. For me, watching this trial, I think there have been things that weren't followed up on. I definitely think there are things that were not done well. We could very easily be in a situation where people are like, I don't think this was like an overarching conspiracy, but I don't think the police force investigated this well at all. So how can I say it was her? I can't, how do you get past those questions? I don't know if we're going to. So I think there's a middle ground. Of course, defense has their theory of the case. It's very clear. What's really interesting to me is that Karen Reed was very welcomed into this friend group. And I just wonder, when we start to get into the people that did not speak to her afterwards, it's like, did you ever reach out after? Did you ever reach out after? Is if the second this happened, did they all just cut her out? And does that become the defense's theory of a convenient outsider? Or is she, how soon after was she arrested? Was her phone taken? Was she told by lawyers not to speak to anyone? We don't really know, but we'll see which way that cuts if we get into more of it. Do I think the police could have pushed harder to find probable cause to apply for a search warrant to get in Brian Albert's house? Sure could have. Did they choose to do that? Sure didn't. And why didn't they choose to do that? You know, we will continue to get into it, but the evidence handling is just absolutely appalling to me. And the victim deserves answers to what happened. The victim's family deserves answers to what happened. The community deserves answers. His friends deserve answers. And Karen Reed and her family and friends deserve answers. Everyone deserves answers to what happened here. And right now, we don't have a whole lot of those. But the case, the judge told the jury 8 weeks. We're 2 weeks in. So we're 2 weeks in. Any thoughts on when we get to meet the McCabe's and the Alberts? We got some of that today on video. I think we're going to get to some more of that tomorrow. Sean said, I'm sorry to ask this, but has the Commonwealth, sorry, I'm so used to seeing the state as the state. Has the Commonwealth established that a death occurred? Yes, sort of. They have not brought in the person who pronounced the victim. So we have gotten to the point where the victim was transported to the hospital. We heard testimony that Karen Reed, that the family was told that he had passed. So we have not gotten to the hospital staff that pronounced him. We have not gotten to the hospital, the pathologist, and the rest of it yet. But we did get into evidence the brother, this was hearsay, it was going to how he was acting, it's not for the truth. But we got to his brother being told at the hospital that he had passed. So we're not there yet. So don't feel sorry to ask it. If you're trying to keep in order what's happening, at some point they're going to have to prove that. We're not all the way there yet. Liz said, VOD in a pint means she had 2 times soda, MA, no doubles. I don't know if there was a pint glass, but okay. So Massachusetts has a bunch of quirky and specific laws when it comes to drinking. Though apparently everybody's just like, but yeah, we're going to drive anyway. Everyone in this case, I'm not attributing that to all of you that live in Mass. Lynn said, even if she ordered the drinks, it doesn't mean she drank them all. True. I often order something with ice, get talking, and we'll reorder because it's watered down. Also fair. I mean, there's video. I don't know if we'll see it on the video. AK said, why are there some trials where they have deposed all the witnesses beforehand, but in this trial, many of the witnesses have never spoken to or met the defense? Civil versus criminal. Oftentimes in criminal cases, there will be no depositions at all. And the defense won't always send an investigator out to ask questions. The defense won't always ask questions. The witnesses won't always agree to it. So in civil cases, everybody's deposed. And in criminal cases, that is not always the case. There's more information in this case because there's multiple grand juries. I don't know if I were the defense, if I would spend the time to go interview everybody either. If they've got a police report, a grand jury, and then a federal grand jury, you've got 3 statements by them. I don't know if I would bother going out and asking them questions. And I think it plays into the defense's theory of the case, or at least they can argue it. Whether it's strategic or not, I don't know. I will go and defer to the defense attorneys on this platform that are wonderful with strategy. I don't know if it's their strategy, but their strategy is Karen's a convenient outsider. Doesn't it also make sense to paint themselves as outsiders a little bit too? We don't know you. We didn't go to high school with your mom and them. We didn't grow up with you. My kids don't play baseball with your kids. We've never spoken before. We've never met before. So the defense is again positioning themselves with the defendant in this case by saying with every witness, we don't know you. We haven't met you. We haven't done, like, we aren't part of this either. And it kind of points out a little bit how much this community is interconnected when the defense gets up there and is like, we've never spoken before, right? So it might be strategy, it might not, but it really does highlight that they have not predisposed these witnesses to answer in any certain way or not. River Van said, with the snow actually melting now with timing, or with the snow actually mattering now with timing, were the questions about the snow in the first couple days really needed? They seem excessive. I don't know what the prosecution's doing. You guys asked me to explain. There's things that I can't just explain. I don't know what they're doing. I think they were trying to establish timeline, but there was no context for it because the prosecution didn't give us context on when John O'Keefe got to 34 Fairview. So with the officers getting in the morning and how much is it snowing at 6 a.m. doesn't fucking help any of us because there's no context to when the victim got there. And there's not a lot of context to the time that he was moved by paramedics. We saw the videos, but the timing isn't super easy. When did he get lifted out of the snow? And what time were those pictures taken? And how much time was between the victim getting removed from the scene and then the pictures being taken? Could things have filled back in with snow? I don't know. These are questions I still have. We have no clear timeline. Deborah Doodles asked, does the defense attorney lead the witnesses? No, that's cross-examination. But yes, because the style of cross-examination questions are leading questions. So no, it's yes. And no, it's yes, leading questions because cross-examination, but no, it's not leading in the sense that you would object to leading when it's done on direct examination. So hopefully that was clear as mud. Yes and no. Monica said, I looked up the Waterfall's menu. Wine is between $7 and $12. Specialty cocktails between 10 and 11. Beer is not priced. Seems like they each got one drink. And we will see if the tabs got split up or didn't. Chelsea Rama said, did they ever check John's BAC? Maybe in the autopsy? We don't know. So curious if he was impaired and how that may have affected reflexes at drop-off time. I don't know what they've done. We will see. Pathology will normally run tests of all of those types of things. So pathology would run the blood for literally everything. So we don't know yet. We have not gotten into the pathologist, and there will be conflicting pathologists, I expect. Ronnie said, how, if any way, have the witnesses today helped the prosecution? Seems they've all been favorable to the defense. Well, they've established that John O'Keefe was drinking beer, mostly, and that Karen Reed was drinking out of a clear glass, mostly. And they've started to establish a timeline. I don't know if the evidence in this case helps them. But the evidence has come in more clearly today. For all of those sending well wishes with weather, I am literally watching on the other monitors. I know there is bad weather in the area. We're under a watch. I've got that in mind. So I am aware. I think a lot of this is going to go north of us, but we will see. I am mindful. If it wasn't for Lally's what ifs and irrelevant questions, this trial would be over by now. It would definitely be moving along more quickly. Jen, thank you for the birthday wishes. It would be moving along more quickly, and I think the judge might admonish him again because the judge has already said once. What are we doing? Danita said, if you ask everyone about snow, no one knows when it's relevant, so it doesn't make an impact when it should. Danita, that's an excellent point. The questions have gotten so repetitively, my brain has kind of stopped. Mel M says, is it normal for the defense to hire a PR firm in high-profile cases? Yes. In other cases, not necessarily, but in high-profile cases, yes. Allison said, leaving on a 10-day vacation to Scotland. Gonna miss watching this trial with you and the Lawnards. Allison, we'll summarize it in quick bits. Other people are summarizing it. Have a wonderful time. Have the best trip. And, the trial will be here on the channel when you get back. Except maybe for the days that might be difficult for me. We have some stuff coming up. We're going to figure it out. Amanda said, nominate Picali for the pickle. I think we might stick with my cousin Dilly because it really is right. Just Call Me Hen said, Emily, from what you've seen so far, do you have reasonable doubt? I have a lot of doubt. Thank you to those who have gifted memberships. I have so many questions. I don't understand how this case happened. Like, I don't understand how all of this went down. I don't understand any of it. Like, I still have questions. I have questions. I have questions. I have so many questions. All questions. 20 plus witnesses and we're not there yet. Shane, good to see you. Shane said, hey, nice hat. Thank you. That's my fax hat. yeah, 21 plus witnesses, and I just have more questions. Trophy wife said, oodalally, golly, what a day. Oodalally. Exactly. Stephen, good to see you. Stephen, I don't know. My brain is broken. I apologize. What am I saying? Good to see you. With all of that, see what I did there? Do you think these witnesses helped the defense create more doubt? Did the prosecution prep the witnesses first? Can he? I don't understand the end game. None of us understand the prosecution's end game. If the prosecution had a clear end game, their opening statement would have been more clear. Do you prep the witnesses? Generally, you have a conversation with the witnesses, like in your police report, you said this, or have you reviewed what you said to police? Or have you reviewed what you said to the grand jury? Or just simply asking them, what do you still remember? It depends on the witness. It depends on the prosecutor. There were many of trials where I said, do you still remember what happened on this day? Yes. Okay. Do you remember talking to law enforcement this day? Yes. Okay. I'm going to ask you some questions. I want you to answer truthfully. If you don't understand my question, tell me, I'll ask it again. It's me, not you. If something is unclear to you, you can say that's not clear. If you don't remember something, it's okay to say, I don't remember. I will then ask you if there is something that might help you remember. And sometimes I'll be able to show that to you. Sometimes I won't. The defense will ask you questions. Answer honestly. If you don't remember something, say you don't remember. If you don't understand the question, say you don't understand the question, and they will rephrase it. Sometimes I will object. Just pause a second and let me object. Take a moment before answering the question when you're on the stand. Just take a breath and then answer. Be as clear as you can and try to just answer the question that I ask. And sometimes the defense will object. Wait for the judge to answer before you answer. And that's about it. Depending on the case, that's a lot of the conversations that I had. Because again, if people don't remember, they don't remember. And sometimes you can say, hey, you talked to the police on this day. Do you remember that? Yes. Was your memory better then than it is now? Yes. If I showed you that report, would it help refresh your recollection? Yes. I rather do that in the presence of the jury where it doesn't seem like I'm trying to tell someone what to say, or the defense doesn't make it look like I'm trying to tell someone what to say. I want to make sure that the jury sees them refreshing their recollection. That's it. That's the conversation with witnesses. There were some cases where the witness was in the hallway because I had been given the case that morning and I didn't know who the witness was until my investigating officer said, this is the witness. And I would give them that spiel as we were like a minute from walking into the courtroom. So it really just depends. This is a very big case with a lot of witnesses. And it seems one DA working tech and one DA working all the witnesses. I don't know how much they would have had a chance to talk to all of these witnesses. So don't know. Don't know at all. Lucy said, as of now, I don't believe she's guilty. If she's found not guilty, would they reopen the investigation? Lucy said, Officer O'Keefe deserves justice. Well, the feds have an investigation into this investigation. I don't know where they can go with that. We are so many years later. Maybe the feds. I don't know what they could do with that. And this trial would make it such a mess to try to prosecute someone else. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I don't know if there's much that they could do with this. So it's a mess. The evidence is a mess. And they've gone to trial on this. So question, what do you think the chances are of a directed verdict? Very slim. This judge hasn't made decisions on evidence. I don't think this judge is going to make a directed verdict. Nope, not at all. Colleen gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Kate asked, what will happen with the baby shower pictures? We don't know yet. We don't know when we don't know when Caitlin Albert is testifying, if she is, and the judge hasn't made a decision yet in the public sphere. We haven't seen that put on the record at all. So I don't know. Melanie said, so will the weathermen be called next to describe the snow, rate, and fall and stick? I don't know, but if they do, I hope it's Ryan Hall, y'all. I'm teasing. He's covering tornadoes, not snow. Kit. That's hilarious. Thank you. Question, why does defense always start by asking if he has met the witness before? I gave my supposition on this a little bit, but I gave my supposition on that earlier just a little bit. Red Hot Amy Kate said, can Karen sue if acquitted? It can be very, very, very difficult. There is a lot of governmental immunity. It's going to, I don't have enough information to give you a helpful answer. It is not an easy yes. That is a very, 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 very limited yes. If that is like an asterisk with an asterisk with an asterisk. So let's tackle those questions at the end of this, because I don't know. Do you think there will be a directed verdict? No, I don't. Not with this. I really don't with this judge. Melissa says, I keep saying to myself that I need to apologize to Marsha Clark. Do you have any thoughts? Compare, contrast with Lolly? Just quick thoughts. Thank you. Lally's making it real hard for me to understand this case. Billy's mom Zilla said they proved that he was billed for a hard drink, but no proof she drank that. Then water the witness drank clear liquid too could be a billing issue. They have not proved much. This couple is me and my husband to a T. Ashley, I love the last witness when it was like, oh, were they asking you guys to go? And she's like, I'm going home, period. And I'm telling my husband, we are leaving. Because, right, she said her husband, I imagine, texted something along the lines of, hey, we all just got together for dinner after the basketball game. She wanted to stay the fuck at home. And her kids are like, Mom, you never go anywhere, go out. So she goes out after 9 p.m. By 11, she's like, can we go? And then Karen and John show up and she's ready to leave. And Karen and John go out and then they're like, one more. And she's not drinking. She gets migraines. So then they're hanging out at midnight. They're like, let's roll. And she's like, home. We're going home. We're going immediately home. I feel her. She's like, I have worked all day and gone to a basketball game. Hannah said every witness starts with the same squinty face when trying to follow Lally's questions. I feel for them because I also can't follow. Bad questions get bad answers. And it makes it real hard for a jury. And a jury can't talk about it. Like, I have a chat to keep me going, but I also have like 3 other screens of stuff and I'm chewing ice trying to keep myself awake. Like, I don't know how the jury's doing it. I do. Tracy said married 25 years with 3 kids. I want more couple time also. Exactly. I get it. Question, did you sense the judge is showing a preference to the prosecution team? Not necessarily at this point. I don't. There are times where she cuts the defense off, like she doesn't want them to talk anymore, but she's done that a little bit with Lolly. She does that a little more with the defense, like, okay, we're not going on. But I find the stippiness as her not wanting to be on the record past the time that they're done. She doesn't always give the attorneys time to be heard, but also the defense does talk more than Lolly does. So I don't know if it's a defense thing or just but the rulings so far haven't been an issue for me. Sometimes the lack of ruling is an issue. The biggest issue I've had with this judge so far is the way she's made everybody renumber everything. It seems like a freaking nightmare. Are there privacy confidential issues with the cams showing the lawyer typing while showing Karen Reed? You can see the lawyer's hands on the keyboard. Kayla, they're not showing his screen. So unless something specific happened, they're not showing his screen. So I don't know what issue that would be. I'm not surprised that he's typing. He's probably taking notes on the case or emails or whatever. But no, you can't tell what he's typing. I want to know, and they're not showing a screen. I want to know how all these parents have the energy to stay out drinking till midnight with kids and work and all of it. They knew it was a snow day the next day. That's how. They knew it was a snow day the next day. Everyone knew it was a snow day. Everything was canceled for Saturday. They went to the kids' events on Friday and they knew they had nothing to do on Saturday. So they're like, we're getting there. We're getting there. Is Lollipop an actual lawyer? Yes, Lolly is. I am not going to call him nicknames. Yes, Lolly's a lawyer. Elizabeth said, I was very firmly on the side of the judge was biased against the defense until this week with all the police shit. And now it's far more equal. And again, I don't know how the judge behaved in the pretrial rulings. I didn't watch them. I wanted to see this case going in. So far, the questions have been pretty fair. Tracy asked, is this for the OUI? Earlier, I think some of that was for the operating under the influence. But remember, it's an operating under the influence causing death. So they still have to prove that her car collided with John O'Keefe. And the fact that it's less snowy makes the fact that he was hit and slipped less snowy. Katrina Nelson said, it is our 30th wedding anniversary today. Congratulations and happy 30th. I hope it is a wonderful day and you get to do some amazing things and have maybe a trip planned or something delightful, because that would be great. For the what if any counter, I'm not counting. It'll make my head spin off. I think that Legal Bites is counting. I don't know. Yellow Pill said, I need a husband who's going to petition for brownie points on the stand in court. That's being live streamed as well. It was they were just so stinking genuine. The last two witnesses, and I just also wonder, because humor can be such a good kind of balm for the soul in tragedy. And I wonder if some of the kind of jokingness was to soothe the nerves and the sorrow of the situation. But it was very sweet. It was very sweet to have some lighthearted moments in this case. It was just a nice moment, right? Kay in the chat said, question, if they can't prove intent, no second degree. Agreed. If they can't prove she was drunk, are all the charges thrown out? Yes. If they can't prove that she was operating a vehicle under the influence, then the jury can't find operating the vehicle under the influence. Oh, no, there's a hit and run. Operating the vehicle under the influence, causing death. Let me pull up the hit and run real quick. I don't think it has an under the influence component, but I want to double check that because my memory does not serve at the moment. So let me look real quick and see what that third charge has. And I'll see if I can find the jury instructions for us and do a breakdown of the elements, maybe at the beginning tomorrow, so that we know exactly what this jury has to find. The prosecution definitely didn't do it in their opening. Let's see. The third charge in the indictment did operate a motor vehicle upon a way or in a place to which the public has the right. Lots of language. Without stopping or making known name, residence, registration number of motor vehicle, did go away to avoid prosecution or evade apprehension after knowingly colliding with or causing injury to John O'Keefe, such injuries resulting in death. So there's no under the influence component to the hit and run causing death, but knowingly is a component. So you have to know that you did the thing, different than intent to kill. But they have to show still that she hit him. There is going to be, I would expect, conflicting pathology and expert testimony on that. With all of that, you guys, I hear that my kiddo is home. I am going to go see him, take a look at this tornado watch. It looks like we got about 5 hours of a tornado watch where I am. I'm going to catch up on some of that and see if I can go find those jury instructions so we can talk about it tomorrow. So I don't know how Ryan Hall y'all feels about raids. So I never want to disrupt anyone else's chat because for me, stuff like that can be highly distracting. I know I'm very neurodivergent, but like a flood of emojis can be very distracting to a streamer, and he's got a lot of serious stuff going on. But if there are law nerds in the chat over there, say hi to your fellow law nerds, and you guys stay safe with the weather, take care of each other. I also think his chat has over 100,000 people in it, so I imagine it is moving. So if you guys end up over there, wonderful. But also, I wouldn't flood his chat because he's got multiple tornadoes up and like 100,000 people. So we're just gonna let him stream. He's got a long day ahead. With that, chat, thank you. See you tomorrow. Half day of court, same bat time, same bat channel. Download the Law Nerd app. We've got some other exciting things to tell you about tomorrow. The app is going to be your best place to stay in the loop. Did I say that enough? I did say that. I said it enough. I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Law Nerds, you're the best. Thank you for making this the #1 place to watch live trials by like 5x. It's absolutely incredible. 10x, 100x. It's amazing. You guys are amazing, and I appreciate you. I'll see you soon. Bye. You can stay up to date with everything I'm covering and fast notifications on our free iOS and Android app at lawnerdapp.com or search the App Store for Law Nerd. You can also follow me around social media, and don't forget to check out my podcast, The Emily Show, with quick bits dropping every Monday, summarizing everything I do here on the live streams on Tuesday and Thursday for when you just have time for the quick bits. Thanks for being a Law Nerd.